As soon as the nether ghost flame appeared here, the air here instantly became hot, and it was even to the extent that some weeds around Xianxia had started to burn up. Many tray ants in the surroundings couldn't help but move backward when they saw the nether ghost flame, and their eyes were filled with fear. Fire was a natural counter to wood, and that ball of flames aroused terror within them. Trust me, I'll burn down every single plant and tree throughout the mountain. Xianxia played with the nether ghost flame in his hand as he glanced at all the tray ants around him. Human, what exactly do you want? That tray ant who led the group spoke in a low voice. Take me to see Xianxia. Xianxia said, don't play tricks with me, otherwise, I guarantee that you'll regret it. Human, if you dare to do that, then my tray ant clan will kill you even if we have to chase you to the ends of the world, said the tray ant in the lead. Is that so? Xianxia smiled and said, I'll count to 3. If you don't agree by then I'll immediately burn this forest. We'll start right now. 1. That tray ant in the lead of the group stared fixedly at Xianxia in silence. 3. As soon as he finished speaking, the nether ghost flame exploded apart with a bang, and then countless strands of flames shot towards the surroundings. All the trees that came into contact with the nether ghost flame instantly caught fire. Human, you said that you would count to 3. The tray ant in the lead was furious as he watched the trees in the surroundings catch fire. I've clearly reconsidered. Xianxia laughed coldly. The nether ghost flame didn't extend swiftly towards the surroundings as it remained within his control, and it just burned some of the trees in the surroundings. Xianxia said, my best virtue is being benevolent. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Order your forces to withdraw immediately and take us to see Xianxia. Of course, you can attack us as well. However, I guarantee that regardless of the battle's outcome, everything in an area of 50 kilometers will transform into ashes. Do you want to give it a try? The tray ants in the surroundings gazed at Xianxia with horror. Besides horror, there was even more hatred in their eyes. After all, even though those trees in the surroundings weren't alive right now, they would be in the future. Once the time came, those trees would become a member of their clan, and many of those trees were related to them. In other words, if Xianxia were to burn the surroundings, it would be their relatives who burned. The killing intent in the eyes of the tray ant who led the group was seemingly material. Countless vines were wriggling incessantly around him, and he seemed like he wanted to attack. Xianxia smiled and said, since it's like then let's just decide it with battle. As he spoke, the nether ghost flame in his palm expanded, and it only took less than a breath of time for it to transform into a dragon that was around 20 m long. The eyelids of that tray ant in the lead twitched when he saw that fire dragon, and he hurriedly spoke when he saw that Xianxia was about to release the dragon. Human, you've won. I'll take you to see Xianxia. Bang! The fire dragon suddenly spat out a strand of flames, and a few dozen trees instantly transformed into ash. The eyes of all the tray ants almost split apart from rage. Sorry, it was an accident. An accident. Let's go see Xianxia. Xianxia smiled, and then he placed the nether ghost flame back within the tiny vortex. The face of that tray ant in the lead of the group twitched as he took a long glance at Xianxia, and then he moved his hands and took both Pixing and Pekong along as he turned around and led the way. Xianxia's gaze was solemn as he gazed at the tray ant because that fellow's strength was absolutely formidable. After all, how could he be weak when he was able to restrain both Pixing and Pekong? The reason that fellow had made such a compromise was definitely not merely because of the nether ghost flame, because he could still deal with the nether ghost flame if he were willing to pay a certain price. Xianxia didn't know what other reason had made that tray ant make a compromise. We have to be careful. Meanwhile, Xianxia said, those 5 tray ants are at the 5th rank of the Exalt realm at the very least. Perhaps they might be fearful of the nether ghost flame, but they are absolutely not terrified of it. Moreover, this is their territory. So, it wouldn't be difficult for them to kill us all if they're willing to pay a certain price. Xianxia nodded and said, I know. Let's go. Alas, I hope the trouble your friend is in isn't too huge. I'll ask her to repay you with herself once you've rescued her. All right? Xianxia blinked at him. Were you the one who spread that I lust for women? Yang Yi suddenly spoke with a serious expression on his face. Do you not? Xianxia replied with a question. Yang Yi felt speechless. Two groups of Treants were in confrontation before an enormous palace made of wood that resided at the top of Mount Heavenshaker. Xianxia, marry me. I'll be the king and you'll be the queen of the Treant clan. We'll rule over the clan together. All right? A young man in a gentle tone towards a young woman who was being protected by a few Treants in the distance. That woman called Xianxia wasn't partially a tree and partially human, and she'd taken complete human form. But unlike ordinary humans, her hair, brows, and even eyes were dark green. Even then, all of this didn't affect the bearing and appearance she possessed. Conversely, all of this gave her a unique form of beauty. Chun Mu, you actually start to rise up in rebellion. A middle-aged woman that looked like a woman and stood by Xianxia's side shouted. The king has just passed, yet your Scholar Tree clan is actually trying to force the next king to abdicate. Aren't you afraid that 9 generations of your family will be sentenced to death? The man called Chun Mu glanced coldly at the middle-aged woman. If it weren't for that old woman, he would have taken Xianxia and the throne a very long time ago. She really deserves death. Meanwhile, a middle-aged man by Chun Mu's side said, Shu Jin, you should be very clearly aware that Xianxia has only just stepped foot into the spirit rank, and it would take 100 years at least for her to enter the exalt rank. On the other hand, Chun Mu is at the peak of the spirit rank, and he just needs to obtain the Greenwood spirit to enter the exalt rank immediately, and he'll definitely be able to attain the monarch rank within another 100 years from now. So, he's more suitable to be the king of our Treant clan. The Greenwood spirit? Shu Jin laughed coldly and said, Chuntang, that's your true objective, right? Chuntang, aren't you ashamed to face the past king of our Treant clan? She never treated your Scholar Tree clan unfairly while she was alive, right? Now that she has just passed, your Scholar Tree clan has immediately risen in rebellion. Have your hearts been burnt away? Chuntang said in a low voice. Didn't Chun Mu say it already? He's willing to marry Xianxia and allow her to be the queen of our Treant clan. What a joke! Shu Jin laughed with ridicule. Don't act like I don't know what your objectives are. It's none other than to use Xianxia to reassure these clans that support my Greenwood clan to maintain its royal position. If you're allowed to stabilize your power over the clan, then I think the first thing you'll do is annihilate the entire Greenwood clan. Right? Shu Jin, you must realize that we're negotiating with you now, and we aren't afraid of you. 70% of the exalt rank Treants in our Treant clan supports my Scholar Tree clan. The reason we're negotiating with you and allowing Chun Mu to marry Xianxia is merely because we don't want members of our Treant clan to kill each other and weaken our overall strength. But if you continue refusing to realize your errors, then don't blame my Scholar Tree clan for being ruthless, said Chun Ting in a cold voice. Uncle Chun, does your Scholar Tree clan really want the throne that badly? Meanwhile, that woman called Xianxia spoke abruptly. A wisp of hesitation flashed through his eyes when he heard her call him uncle, but his eyes quickly became icy cold again as he said, Xianxia, do you think that you can lead the Tree clan to prosperity? Xianxia fell silent for a while before she said, I can give the throne to you. What? The Treants by Xianxia's side were shocked. Shu Jin intended to say something, but Chun Ting said, Really? Xianxia waved her hand to stop Shu Jin before she said, But I have a condition. These Treants who have chosen to follow me must be allowed to leave with me. Chun Ting glanced at them and said, I agree, but I have a condition as well. You must leave the Greenwood spirit behind. The essence within the Greenwood spirit was capable of allowing a Treant below the monarch rank to rise a rank in their cultivation. Even if it were a monarch rank Treant, the benefits provided by the Greenwood spirit would be able to improve that Trent's strength. So, how could he allow Xianxia to take such a treasure with her? That's out of the question. Xianxia immediately refused. This is a treasure of my Greenwood clan, and it absolutely can't fall into the hands of an outsider. Since it's like that, then don't blame my Scholar Tree clan for being ruthless. A wisp of gloominess flashed through Chun Tung's eyes. Xianxia flipped her palm, and a green pearl floated out from her mouth and landed on her palm. She gazed at the dark green pearl and said, "This greenwood spirit was condensed from the essence of my ancestor, and it's an inherited treasure in my greenwood clan. I, Xianxia, would become a sinner of my greenwood clan if I were to let it fall into the hands of an outsider. So, if your Scholar Tree clan intends to take it by force, then I'll have no choice but to destroy it." Chun Tang's expression changed, but he laughed with ridicule right away. "Xianxia, do you think I'm an idiot? The greenwood spirit was condensed from the essence of a half-saint expert, so can you even destroy it? All right, let's not waste our energy anymore. I'll give you one last chance. Leave it behind and I'll allow all of you to leave. Otherwise, my Scholar Tree clan will annihilate your greenwood clan today." 10 tree ants that were over 150 m tall appeared behind Chun Tang. Xianxia and Xu Jin's expressions changed upon laying eyes on those tree ants, because those were 10 exalt rank tree ants, and there were 11 of them if Chun Tang was included. On the other hand, they only had 4 exalt rank tree ants on their side. The gap between their strengths was too huge. "Xianxia, leave with Xu Yuan and the others first. Your uncle Xu Qing and I will stop them. Don't be disobedient at a time like this. You must remember that the Greenwood clan will only have hope if you're alive," said Xu Jin in a low voice. Xianxia shook her head and said, "If we're going to leave, then we'll leave together." Xu Jin was furious. She was just about to say something when Chun Ting shouted, "Attack! Xianxia!" Right at this moment, the voice of a human resounded. Xianxia looked over towards the source of the voice, and she was instantly delighted upon seeing its owner. She said, "Xianer, it's you." It was exactly Yang Ye's group that had arrived. Swoosh! Suddenly, the greenwood spirit on Xianxia's palm transformed into a green ray of light that entered into Yang Ye's body. Xu Sun and all the tree ants from the Greenwood clan were astounded while Chun Tang's face fell. Yang Yi was stunned as well. What flew into me? Right when he was about to investigate, a ray of green light flew out from his body, and it was exactly that green pearl which was on Xianxia's palm. The members of the Greenwood clan heaved sighs of relief. Xianxia was just about to summon the Greenwood spirit back to herself, but it suddenly transformed into a green ray of light and entered Yang Ye's body again. Everyone in the surroundings was at a loss for what to say when they witnessed such a scene. The first time it entered Yang Ye's body, or to be more precise, the first time it entered Yang Ye's tiny vortex, the violet cloud lightning, nether ghost flame, and ninth hell cold gale within the tiny vortex had revealed extremely strong hostility towards this outsider. When the Greenwood spirit saw 3 natural treasures that weren't inferior to it upon entering the tiny vortex, its instincts made it flee immediately. However, it had just fled when the tiny vortex within Yang Yi had suddenly sucked it in again. Because it was the tiny vortex that had done it, all 3 natural treasures didn't dare to reveal hostility towards the Greenwood spirit. But even then, they still rejected it. The Greenwood spirit relaxed when it noticed that those 3 fellows had stopped revealing hostility towards it, and it started to go all around the tiny vortex while filled with curiosity. Just like when those other 3 natural treasures had just arrived at the tiny vortex, it was filled with curiosity and excitement. But in next to no time, a little girl appeared before it. The Greenwood spirit was shocked upon seeing her, and it wanted to flee. However, the little girl merely gestured with her hand and the Greenwood spirit had descended onto her palm. She rubbed the Greenwood spirit before puckering her lips. "You're ignorant and haven't formed high levels of intelligence. You're dumb just like those other 3 fellows. Even though you can't be a toy for me, you're still quite useless to that fool Yang Yi. If you want to stay here, then release your energy and help him improve his strength." The Greenwood spirit immediately started shaking from left to right. "You're unwilling?" The little girl frowned and said, "Trust me. I'll crush you right now." The 9th hell cold gale, nether ghost flame, and violet cloud lightning seemed to desire to curry favor with the little girl. So they circled around the Greenwood spirit and started to exert their formidable pressures onto the Greenwood spirit. The Greenwood spirit was horrified, and it hurriedly started moving upward and downward, but it wasn't long before it shook from left to right again. It seemed to be conveying something to the little girl. The frown on the little girl's face eased up after a short while passed, and she said, I know it'll sap your vitality. Oh, do you sense all the abundant energy here? After you release your energy, you can stay here to recuperate. It'll only take you half a month at most to recover with the energy and primordial violet energy here. The Greenwood spirit seemed to be hesitant. Trust me, I'll wipe off your intelligence right now and create a completely new one for you right now. The little girl was quite angry. The Greenwood spirit's body trembled when it heard this, and it didn't dare hesitate for a second longer. It immediately started trembling violently, and then countless fine balls of green energy erupted from within it. All of these balls of energy flowed along Yang Ye's meridians and started spreading slowly through his entire body. Yang Yi hadn't even been able to figure out what was going on when he felt a strand of terrifying energy erupt within him, and it caused his expression to change drastically. He immediately sat cross-legged on the ground and hurriedly regulated that terrifying energy. This sudden change in the situation caused everyone in the surroundings to be stunned. Why did the Greenwood spirit enter into the body of a human? Only Chun Tang and Shu Xian's expressions had changed drastically, and their eyes were filled with disbelief, because they were very clearly aware that the Greenwood spirit was helping that human improve his strength. No matter how they racked their brains, they were unable to figure out why the Greenwood spirit would suddenly enter the body of a human, and even help that human improve his strength. After all, the Greenwood spirit would have to exhaust a huge amount of its energy every single time it helped someone improve their strength. Why would the Greenwood spirit exhaust its energy to help that human? Xianxia and the others were slightly stunned by this sudden scene as well. However, Xianxia quickly came to an understanding. She was aware of Yang Ye's secrets, so she understood why the Greenwood spirit had chosen Yang Yi. But the current situation is very bad because Yang Yi is clearly about to advance in his cultivation, and there are many Trey ants in the surroundings who are hostile to him. Chun Tang gazed at that Trey ant who'd brought Yang Ye's group here and berated. "Yu Tong, why have you brought these humans to our royal palace?" That Trey ant called Yu Tong glanced at Chun Tang and said, "Chun Tang, your Scholar Tree clan isn't the king of our Trey ant clan yet. Become the king first if you want to start shouting at me." Chun Tang's eyes narrowed slightly, and he said, "Yu Tong, what are you trying to say?" "Nothing much." Yu Tong said, "The fight for the throne between the Greenwood clan and your Scholar Tree clan isn't related to my Parasol Tree clan. My clan has guarded the surroundings of Mount Heavenshaker for generations, and we're only responsible for Mount Heavenshaker's safety. We won't participate in the struggles for power within the clan. This is something that has been so in the past, is now, and will never change in the future." Shu Xian's face dimmed when she heard Yu Tong, because if she could obtain the Parasol Tree clan's help, then even if her Greenwood clan couldn't remain as the royal clan of the Treyant clan, it wouldn't be a problem for them to protect themselves. Unfortunately, Chun Tang's expression was quite horrifyingly gloomy, but he didn't dare use force against Yu Tong. The Parasol Tree clan was a huge clan amongst the Treyant clans, and it even held power over 40% of the entire Treyant clan's military strength. So, if the Parasol Tree and Greenwood clans were to join forces, then it would definitely be a calamity for his Scholar Tree clan. But I'll definitely have a chance to deal with the Parasol Tree clan once we've seized the throne. Chun Tang's gaze descended onto Yang Yi and said, "Attack! Seize the Greenwood spirit first. Don't you dare!" Xianxia walked over to stand before Yang Yi while Xianxia transformed back into his original form. Moreover, Xianxia waved her hand and caused 5 gold guards to appear around Yang Yi. She said, "Chun Tang, if you dare to attack today, then I guarantee that my husband will definitely incinerate your entire clan." Chun Tang's eyelids twitched when he saw those gold guards. They are actually all Exalt Realm experts, and they are equivalent to human experts at the 5th rank of the Exalt Realm. Chun Tang said in a low voice, "Your 9-tailed fox clan has always lived in harmony with my Treyant clan. So what is the meaning of this? Are you trying to declare war against my Treyant clan?" "Chun Tang, what right do you have to represent the Treyant clan?" Xianxia laughed coldly. "Moreover, I'm doing this for your own good. My husband is a very petty man. If he finds out you wanted to kill him and flares up because of it, then your Scholar Tree clan will probably be eliminated from this world. Don't even think that I'm just scaring you. Mo Qingyue frowned when she heard this. She glanced at Xianxia while she thought. She's intentionally baiting the Scholar Tree clan to attack him? Does she want him to help the Greenwood clan? Ha ha! Chunting roared with laughter. He laughed for a while before he pointed at Yang Yi and said, "Him? Annihilate my Scholar Tree clan? Do you think he's the mortal Emperor Luo Jun? What a fucking joke. He's just an ant at the spirit realm, so how could he possess the ability to annihilate my clan? Nine-tailed fox, is there something wrong with your head? Then why don't you give it a try?" Xianxia spoke indifferently. "Then I shall." Chun Tung spoke with a ferocious expression on his face. "Kill them." The Trey ants from the Scholar Tree clan who stood behind Chun Tung immediately pounced at Xianxia's group. On the other hand, Chun Tung himself returned to his original form, and he slapped his enormous palm down towards Yang Yi. "Jin Sha!" Xianxia shouted loudly. Jin Sha, who'd returned to his original form, howled ferociously as he pounced at Chun Tung. "Greenwood clan, heed my orders. The Scholar Tree clan has staged a rebellion. Kill them without mercy." Meanwhile, Xianxia spoke abruptly. It was undoubtedly a good opportunity for the Greenwood clan because they had Xianxia's help, so the amount of Exalt rank experts they possessed wasn't inferior to the Scholar Tree clan anymore. But the Greenwood spirit. Xianxia glanced at Yang Yi when she thought about it, and then she said in her heart, "He's a friend of Xianxia's, so he probably won't take it by force." The members of the Greenwood clan didn't hesitate upon hearing Xianxia's order, and they immediately attacked the Scholar Tree clan. The battle erupted completely, yet Yang Yi was still seated cross-legged on the ground with his eyes closed tightly. At this moment, that green-colored energy had filled his entire body, and all he had to do was absorb it as quickly as possible. As Yang Yi absorbed more and more of it, his cultivation rose straight up like a rocket. Less than 15 minutes had passed before he'd attained the 9th rank of the spirit realm from his initial cultivation at the 7th rank of the spirit realm, and the Greenwood spirit within the tiny vortex was still releasing the green energy without end. Bang! Chun Tang's enormous palm collided forcefully against Jin Sha's huge tail, and an enormous bang resounded. After that, both Crocodile and Trey ants retreated more than 80 m back. Chun Tung glanced towards the surroundings, and his face immediately fell when he noticed that his side was disadvantaged. He hesitated for a moment before a wisp of a savage expression surged onto his face. He said, "Greenwood clan, you forced me to do this. The Greenwood clan will cease to exist from today onward. Ling Tianyu, I agree to your exalted Han Empire's request, so lend me a hand." Ha ha! Right at this moment, roaring laughter resounded before a red-robed man appeared with 5 black-clothed figures. The red-robed man laughed and said, "Chun Tung, you should have agreed earlier. We would have been able to help you annihilate the Greenwood clan a long time ago, and it wouldn't have to have come to this." Chun Tung said in a low voice, "Ling Tianyu, lend me a hand. I'll agree to your conditions." "Of course. Of course." The red-robed man smiled. "However, I want to add another condition. I want the Greenwood spirit." "Ling Tianyu, what's the meaning of this?" Chun Tung glared angrily at Ling Tianyu. Ling Tianyu smiled and said, "Chun Tung, if it was in your hands, then I would naturally not make such a request because we're associates. Unfortunately, it doesn't belong to you. What I mean is the Greenwood spirit will belong to whomever has the ability to obtain it. All right?" Chun Tung fell silent for a short while before he said, "All right." As soon as he finished speaking, Chun Tung swung his arms, and then countless vines shot violently towards Yang Yi. On the other hand, the red-robed man laughed coldly, and then his figure flashed and instantly arrived in front of Yang Yi. "Stop them!" Xianxia was extremely shocked. She was just about to charge over when an Exalt rank expert of the Scholar Tree clan stopped her. The 5 gold guards had just moved in response, but they were immediately stopped by those 5 black-clothed figures. Jin Sha had stopped Chun Tung, but the red-robed man had arrived in front of Yang Yi. He smiled lightly as he gazed at Yang Yi, who was seated cross-legged on the ground, and then he stretched out his hand and clawed at Yang Yi's head. Right at this moment, Lu Jianyao arrived before Yang Yi. An ray of light shot violently at the red-robed man. 7th level sword intent? The red-robed man was slightly surprised and didn't dare underestimate the strength of this attack. He stretched out his hand and clenched his palm, causing the ray of light to stop in midair before it exploded apart. Lu Jianyao was astounded. She was just about to attack again when an enormous palm had arrived above her head. Another ray of light which came from a sword flashed swiftly like a bolt of lightning, and it pierced through the enormous palm that was above Lu Jianyao. Hiss! Lu Jianyao watched with astonishment as the enormous palm was sliced into two, and fresh blood streamed out from it. Ah! A shrill cry resounded. All the Traiants stopped fighting, and they had surprise in their eyes as they looked towards the source of the shrill cry. Ling Tianyu was a 6th-rank Exalt Realm expert, so not to mention a palm, even an entire severed arm could be regrown instantaneously by an expert of such level. But at this moment, he noticed to his horror that no matter how he urged his energy, that palm was impossible to regrow. Moreover, a strand of terrifying energy was corroding the area where his palm had been sliced off. Lu Jianyao was delighted when she witnessed this scene, and then she turned around and saw that Yang Yi, who was seated cross-legged on the ground just now, had stood up. Moreover, the ancient sheath of the Sword Emperor was in his hand. "You're finally awake," Lu Jianyao spoke happily. Yang Yi nodded, and then he said, "Thank you for just now." It was the critical moment of his advancement just now, and the consequences of being disturbed by the red-robed man would be unimaginable. "Why be so polite?" Lu Jianyao smiled and said, "You've saved me on numerous occasions. I've merely saved you once." Yang Yi smiled and said, "All right, leave the rest to me." Sword Intent. 9th level Sword Intent. 9th level Sword Intent. You're Yang Yi. Right at this moment, the red-robed man suddenly gazed at Yang Yi while his eyes were filled with shock. Yang Yi wasn't someone unfamiliar to him at all because Yang Yi was a formidable enemy of his lord, the mortal emperor. However, he hadn't imagined that Yang Yi had actually attained 9th level Sword Intent. 9th level Sword Intent. I must notify the mortal emperor. Otherwise, Yang Yi might take my lord by surprise. When he thought up to this point, Ling Tianyu didn't wait for Yang Ye's reply. He immediately waved his left hand, and then a spatial rift appeared in front of him. However, he just intended to enter that rift when 4 rays of light had appeared in front of him. Ling Tianyu was horrified. He was just about to enter the spatial rift, but it was too late for him to do it now. He was a 6th-rank Exalt Realm expert at any rate, so his reaction wasn't slow at all. He immediately and decisively gave up on the spatial rift, and he stretched out his left hand to create a spatial cage. Those 4 rays of light were trapped by the spatial cage, but only a mere instant passed before they blasted it into pieces, and then everyone watched as sword after sword stabbed through Ling Tianyu's chest while he still hadn't recovered from his shock. You've already... Ling Tianyu gazed at Yang Yi with astonishment. He seemed to want to say something, but he didn't have the chance because the sword intent within his body had suddenly exploded apart under Yang Ye's command, and his internal organs were immediately minced into pieces, causing him to immediately close his eyes and mouth. The others in the surroundings were flabbergasted. A 6th-rank Exalt Realm expert has died just like that? Xianxia glanced at Yang Yi while she seemed to have thought of something. Mo Qingyue gazed at Yang Yi while undisguised shock and fear could be seen in her eyes. Lu Jianyao's eyes glowed instead, and her eyes were filled with excitement and delight. Chun Tong and the other Traiants had gazes that were filled with disbelief instead. Isn't that human a spirit realm profounder? How could he possibly kill Ling Tianyu, a 6th-rank Exalt Realm expert, with just a single attack? Besides that, he's Yang Yi? That human is the so-called Sword Emperor of the human world. Yang Yi gestured with his right hand, and then he placed the red-robed man's corpse into the ancient sheath. After that, he looked at the 5 black-clothed figures in the surroundings. The 5 of them intended to retreat as soon as they heard Ling Tianyu expose Yang Ye's identity. After all, they'd heard of his reputation. Even though Yang Yi was just a spirit realm profounder, it wasn't a secret that he could kill Exalt Realm experts. Moreover, he just killed Ling Tianyu, a 6th-rank Exalt Realm expert, right before their very eyes. So, how could they dare to continue staying here? But it was too late for them to run as well. Because Xianxia had commanded the gold guards that they were keeping busy earlier to start keeping them busy instead. While the 5 gold guards kept those 5 black-clothed figures busy, those 4 Dao artifacts of Xianxia's transformed into 4 rays of light that moved incessantly through the surroundings, and it wasn't long before all 5 of them had been killed. Xianxia didn't take their corpses because they were too weak. "Chantang, where are you going?" Right at this moment, Shu Jin suddenly shouted loudly, and then her figure flashed over to obstruct Chantang's path. At the same time, the members of the Greenwood clan hurriedly surrounded Chantang and all the other members of the Scholar Tree clan. "Shu Jin, do you really intend to fight to the death?" said Chantang in a low voice. "Fight to the death?" Shu Jin laughed coldly and said, "Chantang, do you think that your Scholar Tree clan still has the ability to fight us to the death?" "Scholar Tree clan." Meanwhile, Shu Exine suddenly said, "If all of you merely fought for the throne, then it would still be an internal matter of our Treant clan in the end. But now, you've colluded with human profounders from the outside world to act against our Treant clan. Have you forgotten the teachings of our ancestors? Colluding with humans?" Chantang roared with laughter and pointed at Xianxia as he said, "Shu Exine, has your Greenwood clan not colluded with humans? Forget it, the winner is always in the right. Now that my Scholar Tree clan has lost, it doesn't represent that we'll just allow ourselves to be slaughtered by your Greenwood clan. If worse comes to worse, we'll just fight it out until both sides suffer heavy losses or annihilation." Shu Exine glanced at Xianxia's group, and then she pondered deeply for a moment before she said, "Members of the Scholar Tree clan, hear me. I know all of you only rose up in rebellion because you were deluded by Chantang and his line. The previous king just returned to the embrace of the world, and I don't want to create any more unnecessary slaughter. So, I swear on the ancestors of my Greenwood clan that I'll let bygones be bygones if all of you stop resisting, and I'll only kill Chantang's line of Treants." Many members of the Scholar Tree clan were quite tempted when they heard this. Chantang's expression changed when he noticed this, and he hurriedly said, "Members of the Scholar Tree clan, hear me. All of you have the blood of countless members of the Greenwood clan on your hands. Do you think the Greenwood clan would really spare all of you? If all of you give up on resistance now, then once she becomes the new king and takes full control of the Treant clan, that moment will be the time all of you meet your dooms." Many of them who were previously tempted started to hesitate when they heard Chantang. Right at this moment, the 4 Dao artifacts which were floating before Xianxia had suddenly moved. They transformed into 4 rays of light that shot violently towards Chantang. The latter was horrified, and he sent countless vines to envelop down upon those 4 Dao artifacts. However, those veins weren't able to stop those 4 Dao artifacts at all, and they practically encountered no resistance at all as they slashed those vines into countless pieces. After that, those 4 rays of light flashed about incessantly through Chantang's enormous body. They returned to Xianxia 2 breaths of time later. Chantang's enormous eyes stared fixedly at Xianxia, while they were filled with boundless resentment and horror. 2 more breaths of time before an explosion suddenly resounded as Chantang exploded apart before the eyes of everyone. Xianxia glanced at the members of the Scholar Tree clan whose eyes were filled with astonishment, and then he gazed at Shu Exine who was still shocked as he said, "Miss Shu Exine, you can ask them to surrender now. I think that they won't have any other thoughts now." Xianxia felt that he'd benefited from the Greenwood clan, so he should do something for them. Moreover, he did feel a trace of uneasiness. Shu Exine glanced at Xianxia. Unfortunately, Xianxia was wearing a cloak, so she wasn't able to lay eyes on his appearance, and she said, "Thank you." Xianxia nodded, and then he moved aside. Xianxia glanced at Xianxia while she fell into deep thought. She knew that Xianxia would truly be rising to prominence from this day onward, and the era of the Sword Emperor was truly arriving. "Xianxia, are you at the Exalt realm now?" Lu Jianyao ran over to Xianxia and asked with excitement. Perhaps it was because she was too excited, or perhaps it was because of something else. But she didn't call him Yang anymore. Xianxia didn't answer her question. He just smiled, and then glanced at Mo Qingyue as he said, "Miss Mo, should we have a chat?" Mo Qingyue's body stiffened. Lu Jianyao hurriedly spoke upon noticing the state Mo Qingyue was in. Qingyue, don't be worried. Even though he's very bad sometimes, he's usually never the first to offend or attack another. He won't kill you to keep you quiet. The corners of Yang Ye's mouth twitched. Mo Qingyue smiled and nodded. At a remote area on the mountain, Yang Yi and Mo Qingyue were walking slowly through the forest. Should I call you the Sword Emperor Yang Yi, Yi Yang, or cousin brother? Mo Qingyue broke the silence between them. Yang Yi stopped moving. He turned his head to gaze at her as he said, "You're aware of my identity?" Mo Qingyue nodded and said, "My Mo clan suspected you were a member of the Mo clan when you killed Mo Qingyu, because Mo Qingyu had a Soul Chaser brand which an expert of my Mo clan left within her. So, logically speaking, that Soul Chaser brand should have been transferred onto your soul once you killed her. But that didn't happen. There are only two ways to explain that. Firstly, you were too strong and you eliminated the brand. But it was clearly impossible with the strength you possessed at that time. The second explanation is that you're a member of my Mo clan because the Soul Chaser brand doesn't work against members of the Mo clan." Yang Yi asked, "So, the Mo clan started to investigate me?" Mo Qingyue nodded and said, "My Mo clan would have definitely sent experts to kill you if you were mediocre, because Mo Qingyu was a genius of my Mo clan, and you would have to die for killing her, even if you were the illegitimate son of the patriarch. However, you weren't mediocre at all. You were a genius who was even more monstrous than Mo Qingyue. So, the Mo clan didn't send experts after you and started to investigate you instead." Yang Yi said, "They found out the truth in the end?" Mo Qingyue nodded. Yang Yi suddenly said, "Are those members of the Mo clan who harmed my mother and grandmother still at the Mo clan?" Mo Qingyue's eyelids twitched, and she remained silent for a short while before she said, "They are. And they are quite powerful in the Mo clan." Yang Yi nodded and said, "Go back to the Mo clan. If you head to the Saint Ruins with your current strength, then it's very likely that you won't be able to return alive. Even though the treasures within the ruins are precious, you should act according to the limits of your ability." Yang Yi turned around and walked away when he finished speaking. Mo Qingyue suddenly said, "Aren't you going to return to the Mo clan to have a look?" Yang Yi stopped moving and said, "I will. Help me pass a message to the current patriarch or someone who can make the decisions. Regardless of what their status is in the Mo clan, all those who caused the death of my grandmother and forced my mother to flee for her life all those years ago must pay with their lives. Right, let me ask you something. Has the Mo clan sided with Luo Jun?" Mo Qingyue was stunned, and then she said, "It hasn't. Luo Jun has sent people to contact our clan, but the various elders of the clan had differing opinions towards it. What a pity. It would have been great if the Mo clan sided with Luo Jun. That way, I would have an excuse to annihilate the Mo clan." Yang Ye's figure flashed and vanished on the spot once he finished speaking. Mo Qingyue's delicate figure trembled when she heard Yang Yi. She knew that he wasn't joking, and he wasn't trying to intimidate her as well. That was his true thoughts and what he truly intended to do. Of course, most importantly, she felt that Yang Yi wasn't talking nonsense at all because he could definitely accomplish it. Even if he couldn't accomplish it now, he would definitely be able to accomplish it in the future, and it wouldn't take too long from now. Is his identity as a member of the Mo clan a blessing or calamity for our Mo clan? Greenwood Palace. It's all thanks to you, Xianxia, that my Greenwood clan was able to turn the situation around and put an end to the rebellion. We're best friends, so I won't speak too many words of thanks. Just let me know if you need my Treant clan's help in the future." Xianxia sat on a throne made of vines while she smiled and spoke to Xianxia. Many elders of the Treant clan who were present here nodded when they heard Xianxia. The Nine-Tailed Fox clan was much stronger than the Treant clan, so if they could ally themselves with the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, then it would definitely be an extremely good thing for the Treant clan. Xianxia smiled and said, "Xianxia, aren't you going to thank my husband? I wouldn't have been able to repel the experts of the exalted Han Empire if it wasn't for him." Meanwhile, Yang Yi hurriedly said, "There's no need to thank me, no need at all. It was something I ought to have done." "Really?" The gazes of many Treants descended onto Yang Yi. They had a good impression of this human before them because it was exactly he who'd killed the experts of the Exalted Han Empire and the patriarch of the Scholar Tree clan, and that was why the Greenwood clan was able to turn the situation around. It could be said that the Greenwood clan would have perished if it wasn't for this human. Xianxia's gaze descended onto Yang Yi. She was filled with curiosity towards Yang Yi, because he possessed such terrifying strength at such a young age, and he was even the sword emperor of this age. It made her wonder if the appearance of such a genius amongst the humans was a blessing or calamity to the demon race. Xianxia remained silent for a moment before she glanced at Xianxia, and then she nodded to Xu Jin, who stood by her side. The latter hesitated slightly before she nodded, turned around, and left. Only a little while passed before Xu Jin returned, and she was carrying a small green bottle in her hand. The expressions of many Trey ants in the surroundings changed upon laying eyes on that bottle. Some seemed to intend to say something, but Xu Jin glared fiercely at them and stopped them from speaking. Xianxia took the small bottle from Xu Jin, and then she walked over to Yang Yi and said, "Young Master Yang, words aren't enough to express my gratitude, nor am I able to repay your kindness. There are 3 drops of life water here. It's just a small display of my Trey ant clan's gratitude, so I hope that you don't refuse." Life water. Xianxia was visibly moved, and she said, "Xiner, how generous of you. You're actually giving this fellow life water, which is only inferior in value to the Greenwood spirit within your Treat clan. Even I'm slightly jealous now. If you want it, then I'll give you a drop later." Xianxia. Xianxia smiled. Xianxia shook her head and said, "There are only 10 drops of this every 1,000 years, and it's extremely precious to your Trey ant clan, so how could I possibly ask for it from you? In any case, giving it to him is like giving it to me. There's no distinction between the two of us." As she spoke, she received the green bottle on Yang Ye's behalf and sized it up incessantly. Yang Yi said, "Life water? Can it improve one's strength?" Xianxia rolled her eyes at Yang Yi and said, "Even though it can improve a person's strengths, it's much more precious than treasures which improve a person's strength. Regardless of how heavy your injuries are in the future, or even if the meridians or bones throughout your body are shattered, you'll still be able to recover immediately upon consuming a drop of this. It's that miraculous?" Yang Yi wasn't able to maintain his calm anymore. He'd originally intended to refuse because of the Greenwood spirit, but now, he felt that anyone who refused the life water was an idiot. Xianxia suddenly said, "Right, young Master Yang, I have a request." Yang Ye's heart twitched when he heard this, and he said, "Here it comes." Xianxia didn't wait for Yang Yi to refuse or agree before she said, "The Greenwood spirit is a precious treasure of my Trey ant clan, and it's of utmost importance to my Trey ant clan, so I hope young Master Yang is able to return it to us. You've done a great kindness to my Trey ant clan, so if young Master Yang needs anything, then my Treat clan will agree to anything besides the Greenwood spirit that is within my Trey ant clan's ability. Please." As soon as she finished speaking, she made a full bow to Yang Yi. All the Trey ants within the hall shot their gazes towards Yang Yi as well. Xianxia stopped playing with the life water as well, and she shot her gaze towards Yang Yi as well. Yang Yi smiled bitterly because what he was worried about the most had occurred in the end. He said, "Miss Xianxia, to be honest, even though the Greenwood spirit is a precious treasure that's useful to me, I'm really not shameless enough to take possession of it by force. Even you saw it for yourself. It was the Greenwood spirit that flew into my body. What I'm trying to say is that it isn't that I'm unwilling to return it to you, but the Greenwood spirit itself is unwilling to leave." Xianxia's beautiful brows knit together slightly, while the other members of the Trey ant clan revealed slightly hostile expressions. They only had a single thought in their hearts, and it was that this rather agreeable human actually intended to take possession of the Greenwood spirit by force. Yang Yi said, "I know all of you don't believe me, but that's the facts of the matter." Yang Yi was rather depressed at this moment. Indeed, no one would feel happy from being regarded as a thief. He knew that the reason the Greenwood spirit was staying within his body was mainly because it had taken a liking to the tiny vortex. But the problem was that he was unable to explain all of it to these Trey ants. Many Trey ants in the surroundings were filled with indignation when they heard such a shameless answer from Yang Yi. If Yang Yi hadn't helped them earlier, and if it wasn't because of the strength that Yang Yi possessed, many Trey ants would have probably attacked by now. Meanwhile, Xianxia suddenly said, Xianxia, he should be telling the truth. Xianxia gazed at Xianxia with a puzzled expression. Xianxia glanced at Yang Yi and said, Is it the reason? Yang Yi knew what Xianxia was speaking about, and he immediately nodded. Xianxia gazed at Xianxia and said, Xianxia, you might really be unable to get it back. I can guarantee that he isn't trying to take possession of your Greenwood spirit. As for the reason, he probably won't tell you it. As for me, I can't tell you as well. Otherwise, he'll definitely kill me. I'm truly sorry. I never expected that this would happen as well. Xianxia smiled bitterly. If Xianxia wasn't a good friend of hers, then she might really suspect that they were working together to trick her and take the Greenwood spirit. She chose to believe Xianxia in the end. Moreover, her intuition told her that this fellow called Yang Yi wasn't such a person. Even though they'd only known each other for a short while, she knew that he was a very proud person. If he really wanted to take the Greenwood spirit by force, then he would absolutely not give her such a long explanation. But could it be that I really have to give away the treasure of my Greenwood clan? Not to mention that she refused to agree to that, even the entire Treyant clan would probably not agree to it. Are you not going to do something? Xianxia glared at him and said, Even though it wasn't intentional, you still can't avoid the fact that you're still partially responsible, right? Yang Yi smiled bitterly and said, I'm not trying to act shamelessly. Even though this pearl is very good indeed and is very useful to me, to be honest, it isn't precious enough that I have to act shamelessly to obtain it. Alright, I really am partially responsible. How about we do this? Miss Xian, name a price, and I'll buy this pearl. Alright, buy it. Xu Jin was furious. She glared at Yang Yi and said, That pearl is like a natural treasure. You want to buy a natural treasure with money? How laughable. Do you know what a natural treasure is? Do you know what it is? I do. Yang Yi nodded. Truthfully speaking, he naturally did. He had 3 natural treasures within him, so how could he not? You do? I don't think you do. Xu Jin spoke furiously. Every single natural spirit is favored by the heavens and the earth. You can't even imagine how precious they are. You! When she spoke up to this point, Xu Jin's voice had stopped abruptly, and she gazed at Yang Yi with astonishment. To be precise, she was looking at the ball of flames and a bolt of violet lightning on Yang Ye's palms. Bang! A violet gale appeared out of nowhere, and the 9th hell sword wings appeared on Yang Ye's back. 3 natural treasures. All the Trey ants in the surroundings were dumbstruck as they gazed at Yang Yi. Yang Yi said, Look, I really do know. I'm not trying to show off, and I just want to tell all of you that while your Greenwood spirit is precious, it really isn't precious to the point that I have to act shamelessly to take it by force. I know that I'm in the wrong, so tell me what I have to do so that you'll give up on this pearl. If you really refuse to give up on taking it back, then to be honest, I will have no choice but to flee. You! Xu Jin's body trembled with fury. Xianxia waved her hand and said, It's fine. Young Master Yang's strength is extraordinary, and my Treyant clan can't afford to offend young Master Yang. So we'll just give it to you as repayment for your kindness of saving our Treyant clan. If it was any other person, then she would naturally not take the initiative to give the Greenwood spirit away. But she was helpless against Yang Yi, completely helpless. She still hadn't forgotten the scene when Yang Yi killed Chen Teng just now. Yang Yi felt slightly embarrassed when he heard this. He had no choice but to look towards Xianxia in the end, as he hoped that she would have a way to deal with this. Xianxia rolled her eyes at Yang Yi, and then she gazed at Xianxia as she pointed at Yang Yi and said, Xianxia, what do you think about his strength? Xianxia was stunned, and then she glanced at Yang Yi and fell into deep thought for a while. She said, He's very strong. I'm afraid that there aren't many in the entire demon race who can go against him. Xianxia smiled, and then she looked at the other Trey ants in the surroundings and said, He's the Sword Emperor of this era. His natural talent even slightly surpasses the Sword Sect's founding ancestor from all those years ago. I guarantee that it won't be long before he'll definitely become unparalleled throughout the world, just like the Sword Sect's founding ancestor was all those years ago. Everyone, the Greenwood spirit is precious indeed, but it's only an object in the end. Do you think that a favor from a future extraordinary expert or an object like the Greenwood spirit is more precious? The Trey ants in the surroundings fell silent. If they hadn't watched Yang Yi kill Chun Tang in an instant just now, they would definitely not believe Xianxia. Yet now, they couldn't deny that this human before them was very strong. Most importantly, he was very young and only around the age of 20. Xianxia gazed at Xianxia and said, "Xianxia, you have to realize that the Trey Ant clan doesn't possess a monarch realm expert." Xianxia's entire body trembled when she heard this. She understood what Xianxia meant. If a clan didn't possess a monarch realm expert or the protection of a formidable power or expert in this world, which was about to fall into great chaos, then that clan could be annihilated or enslaved by others at any moment. Xianxia fell silent. Right at this moment, a ray of green light flowed out slowly from within Yang Yi, and Xianxia revealed an excited expression when she saw it, because the Greenwood spirit was taking the initiative to communicate with her. After all, the Greenwood spirit had rarely communicated with her grandmother while it was in her grandmother's possession. A short while later, dense shock could be seen in Xianxia's eyes. After the green light vanished, Xianxia didn't hesitate to speak immediately. "Young Master Yang, I want to make my Trey Ant clan a vassal of yours. I hope you don't refuse." "Ha!" Yang Yi was stunned. It wasn't just Yang Yi. Even Xianxia and all the Trey Ants here were stunned. "Become a vassal of mine?" Yang Yi was stunned. Xianxia nodded and said, "Young Master Yang, you've seen it as well. The Exalt Han Empire is targeting my Trey Ant clan. My clan's current strength isn't sufficient to go against the exalted Han Empire at all. Moreover, the world is about to fall into chaos, so there'll definitely be a battle between the human race and demon race. My Trey Ant clan's home isn't within the demon territory, so we're utterly unable to resist if the exalted Han Empire intends to attack us. Young Master Yang is the only one throughout the world who can go against the mortal emperor, Luo Jun." Xianxia wasn't doing this impulsively, and it was mainly because of two reasons. The first reason was the Greenwood spirit. Even though the Greenwood spirit wasn't able to communicate very clearly with her just now, she understood that it wanted her to form a good relationship with Yang Yi. Secondly, it was because of the strength and potential that Yang Yi had revealed. She firmly believed that he would definitely rise to prominence, and coupled with Xianxia's attitude towards him, she decided to make a gamble. The elders of the Trey Ant clan who were about to speak out in rejection had fallen silent upon hearing her. All of them were Trey Ants that had attained intelligence, so they were naturally clearly aware that Xianxia wasn't wrong at all. The Trey Ant clan really did need formidable backing, and they only wondered whether the forces standing behind Yang Yi were strong. "Miss Xianxia, are you sure?" asked Yang Yi. Xianxia nodded and said, "How could I joke around on such an important matter? You won't regret it?" "I won't." Yang Yi nodded and said, "Since it's like that, then make preparations immediately and move your Trey Ant clan to the southern territory." Yang Yi naturally wouldn't refuse because even though the Trey Ant clan had no monarch realm experts, their forces couldn't be underestimated at all. In any case, the more the better. "Move." Xianxia was stunned. "Of course." Yang Yi said, "Do you think Luo Jun would let your clan go if he found out that you've sided with me? Wouldn't it be extremely easy for him to annihilate your Trey Ant clan in the central territory? So, you have to move to the southern territory because only there would your safety be guaranteed. After all, Luo Jun's forces don't possess absolute power there." Xianxia fell silent. Moving the entire Trey Ant clan meant giving up on their current territory, and she could imagine all the trouble it would cause and how many Trey Ants would be against it. The slightest mistake might even cause chaos to appear in the situation within the Trey Ant clan that had just been stabilized. "Perhaps we can side with the exalted Han Empire. We wouldn't have to move if we did that." Right at this moment, another one of the Trey Ants spoke abruptly. Many of the others were quite tempted by this suggestion. "Shit!" cried Xianxia in his heart. Sure enough, Yang Yi laughed coldly and said, "Side with the exalted Han Empire? That's fine as well, because then I would be able to take the Greenwood spirit with a clear conscience." Shu Xian's expression changed while Shu Jin, who stood by her side, spoke furiously. "Yang Yi, what are you trying to say?" Bang! The nether ghost flame appeared in Yang Ye's palm as he glanced at the surroundings and said, "I'm very kind towards my friends, but I'm also very cruel towards my enemies. If you chose to be my enemies, then trust me. I'll definitely burn off all the trees on this mountain. Don't you dare." Shu Jin and the other Treants in the surroundings glared angrily at him, and they were ready to attack. Right at this moment, a sword suddenly flew out from the sword chest on Yang Ye's back, and the sword arrived right before Shu Jin's forehead before she could even react. Shu Jin was astounded by this, and she heard Yang Ye's icy cold voice. "Who do you think you are? You dare shout and make noise in front of me? Trust me, I'll kill you right now. If you don't believe me, then speak a single word. I'll kill you right now if you do that. Do you want to try me?" All the Treants were stunned. Never had they imagined that Yang Yi, who was friendly and amiable just a moment ago, would suddenly become so vicious, and they hadn't expected that Yang Yi would actually dare to attack within their palace. "Is he not afraid that we would besiege him?" Shu Jin was stunned as well. Never had she imagined that Yang Yi would actually dare to attack her and even act so arrogantly. "This is the territory of my Treant clan. It isn't the Southern Territory." Shu Jin's face was livid from being threatened in front of all the Treants here, but she didn't dare speak another word. She could only glare angrily at Yang Yi as if she wanted to kill him with her gaze. "Young Master Yang, please show mercy." Meanwhile, Shu Xian sighed lightly. She hadn't imagined that Yang Yi would actually attack within their palace. At this moment, she suddenly noticed a problem. Could her Treant clan kill Yang Yi if he really attacked them? The answer was that even if they could kill him, around 90% of the Exalt rank Treants within her clan would probably be wiped out. Moreover, the precondition to that was that Xianxia didn't lend a hand to any side. Simply speaking, both sides would end up heavily injured if they fought, and the slightest mistake might cause the Treant clan to be annihilated. Yang Yi glanced at Shu Xian, and then he commanded the sword that was right before Shu Jin's forehead to return back into the sword chest. He said, "Miss Shu Xian, it was you who raised the request to join my side, and it wasn't I who forced you. You must recognize that clearly. Secondly, while I do feel that I owe you because of the Greenwood spirit, but that's under the condition that we're friends. If you chose to become my enemy, then I can only say that we have to let fate decide who lives and who dies." Shu Xian shook her head and said, "Young Master Yang, you must be joking. The Scholar Tree clan colluded with Luo Jun and almost destroyed my Greenwood clan. So how could I possibly side with him? Even if I did, he would probably not trust my Treant clan. So, my Treant clan will probably be sacrificed as cannon fodder in the end. I've considered young Master Yang's suggestion to move to the Southern Territory, and I've decided to listen to your suggestion. I'll order all the Treants who are willing to leave to the Southern Territory with me to move there within the next few days. What do you think, young Master Yang? Are you really sure?" asked Yang Yi. Shu Xian nodded. Yang Yi said, "I promise that I will absolutely not betray your Treant clan if your Treant clan doesn't betray me." "It's a promise," said Shu Xian. Yang Yi smiled and said, "I never go back on my word. Miss Shu Xian, head to the Grand Myriad Mountains and look for the Beast Emperor once you've arrived at the Southern Territory. He'll arrange for a place for all of you to stay at. If the Southern Territory is unable to resist Luo Jun, then I'll take all of you to the Demon Territory. Of course, I hope that you won't refuse if I need the Treant clan's help." "You can take us to the Demon Territory?" Shu Xian was surprised. The Demon Territory was very much against outsiders, and it looked down upon all other members of the demon race that weren't in the Demon Territory. Because many demon beasts outside the Demon Territory had sided with humans and became their mounts or slaves. So, the members of the demon race from the other territories can only dream of entering the Demon Territory. But Yang Yi actually said that he could take them there. So besides feeling surprised, she couldn't help but feel slightly doubtful. "That's something you probably don't know," Meanwhile, Xianxia said, he is friends with the Demon Emperor's daughter, and they've gone through situations of life and death together. That little fellow listens to everything he says, and the Demon Emperor has acknowledged him as well. Do you know why he is still alive even when he has openly gone against the exalted Han Empire? It's because the Demon Emperor himself stepped forward and warned the Monarch Realm experts of the human world that he would kill any Monarch Realm expert who dared to act against Xianxia. Really? Asked Xianxia. Xianxia nodded and said, Xianxia exaggerated a little. But if worse comes to worse, it shouldn't be a problem to take all of you to the demon territory. Xianxia smiled. She knew that her decision was correct. Even though Xianxia was a human, he was a unique human because he had a very good relationship with the Demon Emperor. Luo Jun was a human as well, but Luo Jun was bound to become an enemy of the demon race. Even though she knew that the demon race of the demon territory looked down upon her Treant clan, she still didn't want to help Luo Jun fight the demon race. In short, the benefits she gained from siding with Xianxia was much greater than what she would gain from siding with Luo Jun. After all, there wasn't a single member of the demon race that didn't want to return to the demon territory, because that was their true home. After they found out that Xianxia could lead them back into the demon territory, the Treant clan stopped objecting Xianxia's decision to side with Xianxia. Throughout the next day, Xianxia immediately started making arrangements to move her clan to the southern territory. Some Treants were really against it at the beginning and were even unwilling, but Xianxia's ruthless suppression of such opinion caused those Treants to just vanish from the face of the mountain. After she took full control of the Treant clan, Xianxia, Xianxia, Lu Jianyao, and the others continued on their journey. A day later, Xianxia gazed at Lu Jianyao, who'd been silent all along the way, and then he asked, Why have you been silent all day? That's not how you usually are. Lu Jianyao glanced at him, remained silent for a while, and then she said, Xianxia, tell me the truth. Did you kill Qingyue? Oh, so she was actually being silent because of that. Xianxia shook his head while he laughed bitterly and said, What makes you think that? I know that you are afraid she would expose you now that she's aware of your identity, so you kill her, right? Lu Jianyao was slightly angry, even though she was really holding herself back. But Xianxia could still feel it. I didn't kill her. She went home. This could be considered as Xianxia's explanation. Huff! Lu Jianyao immediately heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing this, and then she smiled. I knew that while you're usually very ruthless, you are absolutely not someone who likes to kill the innocent. You're a good person. I really didn't misjudge you. Xianxia glanced at Lu Jianyao, and then she shook her head. This girl is truly ignorant. Xianxia is a good person. Pekong and Pexing glanced at Xianxia and remained silent. After they found out that Xianxia had instantly annihilated Chun Tang with a single attack, both of them were very clearly aware that this human wasn't someone they could offend. You believe me that much? Xianxia glanced at her and asked flatly. Of course. Even though you're quite lecherous, you're unlikely to lie and deceive others, said Lu Jianyao as if it was a matter of course. Xianxia's face darkened. Ha ha! Xianxia couldn't help but roar with laughter. Princess, we've arrived at the Desert of Exile. Meanwhile, Xianxia, who was following behind Xianxia, had spoken abruptly. Xianxia stopped moving and looked over before his brows knit together. Sandstorms. Violent winds were whistling through the distance, and it caused the sand on the desert to be swept up endlessly into the air and blot out the sky. Xianxia asked softly, This is the Desert of Exile? Xianxia nodded and said, It's the territory of the Scorpion and Pit Viper clans. Just like other clans of demons, they are extremely hostile to humans. So long as humans were to enter the desert, then even Exalt Realm experts would only have a slim chance of surviving. Are they really that formidable? Lu Jianyao was slightly doubtful. Xianxia created a suction force in her calm, and then a small stone fell into her grasp. She flicked it with her finger, and it fell onto the desert in the distance. Xianxia and the others watched with astonishment as a small multicolored snake appeared from beneath the sand and swallowed the stone as soon as it fell onto the sank. And then the snake went beneath the sank as if it had never appeared there. Lu Jianyao was astounded and said, There, There are snakes beneath the sand. Xianxia said, there are countless pit vipers and scorpions within this desert, and so long as humans. Actually, anything that enters the desert will suffer their attacks. Just think about it. How huge is this desert? So, how many pit vipers and scorpions would there be within it? Coupled with the fact that they reside beneath our feet and can take us by surprise, then do you think we would be able to defend ourselves against exalt rank scorpions or pit vipers? A chill couldn't help but run down Lu Jianyao's spine when she thought about countless scorpions and pit vipers emerging from below the ground and attacking her. She said, there are so many sandstorms, so it's definitely impossible to fly. What should we do if we can't fly? Yang said, Missine probably has a way to pass through the desert, right? If you truly have no other way, then I'll have no choice but to kill my way through this place. Xianxia, Pekong, and Pexing's eyelids twitched when they heard Yang Yi. This human is even more domineering than members of the demon race. Call me Xianer. Xianer glared at him, and then she said, have you taken a living for Shu Xan and intend to abandon me? Yang Yi was speechless. Hey, can you have a little shame? Yang Yi had said that he isn't your husband, yet you still constantly call him your husband. You're a woman at any rate, so can't you be a little reserved? Lu Jianyao really couldn't stand the sight of Xianer, especially when she found out that Xianer was one of those foxes of legend. What? Are you jealous? Xianer had a spurious smile on her face as she glanced at Lu Jianyao. What would I be jealous of? Lu Jianyao's face flushed red from anger. Miss Xianer, tell me if you do have a way through the desert. Otherwise, I can only kill my way through it. Yang Yi had a slight headache with the two of them because they refused to stop arguing for even a moment while they were together. Xianer smiled, and then she glanced at Xianxia. The latter understood her intentions. His figure flashed and returned to his original form before he shot into the desert. Xianxia has a slightly friendly relationship with the patriarch of the Scorpion clan, so it shouldn't be a problem for us to pass through this place after Xianxia notifies them. Husband, I've helped you so much, so how do you intend to repay me? Why don't you allow me to give birth to a child for you? Xianer blinked her eyes and spoke shyly. Shameless. Lu Jianyao grunted. You really intend to give birth to a child for me? Yang Ye's face didn't become slightly like the character this time, and he stared straight at her and asked this question in an extremely serious manner. Xianer was stunned. Obviously, she'd been caught slightly off guard by Yang Ye's reaction. However, she calmed her emotions in next to no time, and then she said shyly, of course, I'm absolutely devoted to you, my husband. Yang Yi nodded and said, all right, since it's like that, then let's look for a time to make a child. Constantly backing down would only make this fox reach for a yard after being given an inch. Since it was like that, Yang Yi felt it was better to attack her head-on. In any case, he believed that she would absolutely not give birth to a child for him. Xianer was the one who was speechless this time. Yang Yi paid no attention to her, and he closed his eyes slightly before he immersed his consciousness into his body. A wisp of a smile appeared on the corners of his mouth, while he gazed at the green pearl in the pool of profound energy within the tiny vortex. Needless to say, the Greenwood spirit had helped him greatly, because he was at the Exalt realm now. So long as a Monarch realm expert didn't act against him, then he was confident to face any Exalt realm expert. After he attained the Exalt realm, Yang Yi noticed that the space within the tiny vortex had expanded to an extremely terrifying state. According to his estimation, it was at least capable of housing a small city with 100,000 inhabitants. Moreover, his violet profound energy had turned dark violet in color. Besides that, he had two more sword servants, Ding Xiang and that elder of the Sky Devil sect. In other words, he had 10 sword servants now. Moreover, the speeds of cultivation of Hong, Black One, and the other sword servants were extremely swift while they cultivated within the tiny vortex. He believed that it wouldn't be long before all of them could attain the 5th rank of the Exalt realm. In short, this advancement of his had provided him with a huge amount of benefits, and it was an extremely timely assistance to him. Yang Yi withdrew his consciousness from within his body, and then he flipped his palm before the ancient sheath appeared in his grasp. He issued a command in his heart, and then the ancient sheath shot void flash out from within it before he put the ancient sheath away and grasped void flash in his hand. At this moment, he was able to truly control void flash after he'd grasped spatial energy, and he was able to bring forth void flash's true strength. Something else worthy of mentioning was that his sword domain had become stronger as well. The changes his sword domain had undergone even shocked him a great deal, and it was even more shocking than the might of the Heavenren drawing technique when executed with void flash and the ancient sheath. He wasn't talking nonsense when he said that he intended to kill his way through the desert. It was because he felt that he could really accomplish it now. Of course, it was best to keep a low profile. Meanwhile, Xianxia had returned, and a middle-aged man who had a sharp golden sting on his head had come here with Xianxia. "Princess, this is the patriarch of the Scorpion clan, Xianxia," Xianxia introduced. Xianxia nodded and said, "Patriarch Yi, you should be aware of the reason that we've come here, right? Our objective is the Saint Ruins, and we won't be staying on the Desert of Exile." Xianxia glanced at Yang Yi and Lu Jianyao before he frowned and said, "Princess Yin, it wouldn't be a problem to pass through the desert if it was just you, Xianxia, and those two fellows behind you. But these two humans. Princess Yin, I'm not making it difficult for you on purpose. You should be clearly aware that humans aren't allowed in the Desert of Exile. Truthfully speaking, it's very dangerous if you bring these two humans with you into the desert. Even you know that my Scorpion clan isn't the only clan in the desert." Yang Yi shook his head upon hearing this. At this moment, he really missed the little fellow. If the little fellow was here, then all those poisonous beasts throughout the desert would just be trash. After all, would anyone dare to stop the little fellow? In any case, he'd never seen a single member of the demon race that didn't give the little fellow face. Xianxia smiled and said, "It's fine so long as your Scorpion clan doesn't attack us. Just leave the rest to us." Xianxia said, "Since it's like that, then I won't say anything else. Princess Yin, please go on ahead. Right, allow me to warn you that besides that crazy pit viper, all of you have to be careful of the sandstorms as well. Even Exalt Realm experts will be torn into pieces if you get swept into the sandstorms by accident." "Thank you for the warning," Xianxia nodded. Xianxia glanced at Yang Yi, and then a wisp of surprise flashed through his eyes before he turned around and left. After Xianxia left, all of them waited on the spot for a while, and then they entered the desert once the sandstorm in the distance had dispersed. "We'll be at the wilds once we pass through the Desert of Exile. You'll have to face Luo Jun head-on at that time. Are you confident in your ability to do so?" asked Xianxia. Yang Yi thought for a while and said truthfully, "I'm very confident if it's a one-on-one battle, but I might not be confident at all if it's a group battle. Luo Jun won't fight you in a one-on-one battle." Xianxia smiled and said, "He has so many experts by his side, so he won't take a risk himself. However, it's fine, because even though he has many experts by his side, we have many as well. So long as we join forces after we enter the Saint Ruins, then he may not necessarily be able to occupy an advantaged position. But we have to be careful of one person." "Who?" asked Yang Yi. "And Nanjing." Xianxia had a solemn expression on her face as she said, "Her clan has sided with Luo Jun. If she helps Luo Jun, then we'll be in quite a bad situation. You've fought her, so you should be clearly aware of the strength she possesses, right?" "And Nanjing, huh?" Yang Ye's brows knit together slightly. He was naturally clearly aware of her strength. If nothing unexpected occurred, then she should have attained the Exalt Realm by now. If she really does help Luo Jun, then it will be extremely troublesome to deal with, because she'll definitely be able to keep me constantly busy, and only I can keep her busy. Otherwise, if Xianxia and the others were to go against her, then they would die no matter which one of them fought her." Yang Yi remained silent for a short while before he said, "Besides the profounders of our human world, even the demon race is able to head to the Saint Ruins as well?" "Of course," Xianxia said. "After all, the current strength of your human race isn't strong enough to forcibly take possession of the Saint Ruins. Otherwise, the human race wouldn't have signed that agreement with the demon race and devil race. The human race and demon race are both parties which will be heading to the Saint Ruins this time, and if nothing unexpected occurs, then the devil race will send their forces over as well. I just don't know if it'll be Mo-ku. Yang Yi suddenly said, "What do you think will happen if Luo Jun dies?" Xianxia's eyelids twitched, and she took a deep and long glance at Yang Yi before she said, "If he dies, then the Central Territory will definitely fall into chaos, because those powers that have allied themselves with the exalted Han Empire will definitely break their promises. The biggest reason why they've sided with the exalted Han Empire is because Luo Jun is the mortal emperor and messenger of the world. However, if that messenger of the world were to have died, then doesn't it mean that the world has given up on the exalted Han Empire? Would anyone dare become allies with the exalted Han Empire then?" Yang Yi tightened his grip of Void Flash when he heard this. Xianxia asked, "You want to kill Luo Jun?" "Can I not?" Yang Yi said, "He's a human and not a god. It's very difficult." Xianxia said in a low voice, "There are countless experts by his side, and with the resources and reserves possessed by the exalted Han Empire, it would have definitely given him all sorts of Dao artifacts or other methods to protect his life. So, unless it's a Monarch Realm expert. No, even a Monarch Realm expert would probably find it difficult to kill him." Yang Yi was just about to say something when their group suddenly stopped moving because the sand around them had started to move. Bang! An enormous explosion resounded as an enormous crimson-colored snake suddenly emerged from the distant ground. The enormous snake raised its head and howled furiously, and then its barrel-sized mouth opened wide as it charged at Yang Ye's group. An exalt rank pit viper? Xianxia's beautiful brows knit together slightly. Xianxia understood her intentions, and his figure flashed as he returned to his original form before colliding forcefully with the pit viper. Bang! An enormous bang resounded. The pit viper was no match for Xianxia and was directly blasted flying. Right at this moment, the sand beneath their feet suddenly started to wriggle violently. Yang Ye's eyes narrowed slightly as he gazed at the thing that was wriggling beneath their feet, and then his 9th-level sword intent surged out from within him and shot into the sand. 2 breaths of time passed before a shocked and furious roar resounded from beneath the sand, and then strands of fresh blood seeped up from below. Pekong and Peking revealed astonishment in their eyes when they witnessed this scene. They hadn't imagined that Yang Ye's sword intent would actually be so terrifying. It wasn't just them. Even Xianxia was quite shocked. Bang! The sand in the distance suddenly exploded apart before an enormous snake that was extremely wide and almost 300 m long appeared within their fields of vision. Moreover, there was a dense expanse of pit vipers around it. It was truly quite a terrifying scene to behold. As soon as it appeared here, it suddenly swept its tail at Xianxia. Xianxia was horrified and didn't dare act carelessly against it at all. Xianxia opened his huge mouth and bit at the enormous snake's tail. However, Xianxia's pupils constricted violently as soon as they came into contact, and a few teeth in his mouth were instantly blasted away. Moreover, he was swept over 100 m away by the force from it. The expressions on the faces of Xianxia and the others changed. The enormous snake gazed at Yang Ye's group and spoke furiously. "Human! You actually dared to kill a member of my pit viper clan. I'll swallow you alive." Yang Yi tightened his grip of Void Flash while Xianxia suddenly said, "I presume that you're the patriarch of the pit viper clan?" "Qilian. I'm from the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. We haven't come to the Desert of Exile to attack your pit viper clan, and we merely want to pass through your territory. Patriarch Qi, please make an exception for us." A nine-tailed fox. Qi Lian's gaze descended onto Xianxia, and he sized her up before he revealed a wisp of lust in his eyes. He said, "As expected of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. You're so beautiful. Ha. Since you've come here, then there's no need to leave. My pit viper clan just happens to lack a queen, and you're perfect for that. You're courting death." Pexing and Pekong were furious, and they were just about to attack when Xianxia waved her hand to stop them. She said, "You want me to be your queen? What a joke. Why don't you take a look at what you are? Are you even worthy of making me your queen? I originally had no intention to get us into any extra trouble. But since you want to die that much, Then I'll annihilate your pit viper clan today. Annihilate my pit viper clan? Ha. You. Qi Lian spoke with disdain. Even though we're all at the exalt rank, but trust me, I only need 3 moves to kill you. Xianxia paid no attention to Qi Lian, and she just walked over to Yang Ye's side and forcefully pinched his waist as she pouted. How can you actually remain indifferent when your wife is being teased by someone else? You're so heartless. You can dream of getting into my bed in the future. The corners of Yang Ye's mouth twitched, and he said, I wouldn't be able to get into your bed no matter what, right? That may not necessarily be the case. I can give it some consideration if you perform well. Xianxia blinked. What's considered as good performance? Asked Yang Yi. Like killing this huge snake. Xianxia smiled. Yang Yi nodded and said, so it was that easy. Looks like I got a good deal. Qi Lian raised his head and roared furiously before he said, Human! What a vile and immoral pair. I'll tear the both of you apart while you're still alive. Yang Yi held Void Flash in his grasp as he walked slowly towards Qi Lian. Qi Lian laughed with disdain when he saw Yang Yi walk over, and he said, Human, you think you can break through my defenses with your strength? Come. I'll let you strike me a few times and realize how weak you are. Alas, what an idiot. Xianxia shook his head. She could be said to have witnessed what courting death was like. Not to mention that Qi Lian was just a snake. Even if he was a dragon, Yang Ye's 9th level sword intent and Dao artifact would absolutely be able to break through his defenses unless he'd attained the monarch realm. But he wasn't a dragon and was just a snake. Yang Yi was slightly stunned. He hadn't expected that this fellow would let him strike a few attacks. He felt that it was a good thing and he naturally wouldn't refuse it. Yang Yi stomped his right foot on the ground and shot forward like a cannonball, and he arrived before Qi Lian. Qi Lian's enormous serpentine eyes were filled with disdain, and he even stretched his head towards Yang Yi in a display of strength. It seemed like he was telling Yang Yi to strike his head. Yang Yi felt quite bad when Qi Lian did this, because he felt that he was really bullying the fellow. Of course, he wouldn't feel any pity and be unable to attack just because of that. Yang Yi flipped his palm and frostlight appeared in his hand. His figure flashed over and slashed down towards Qi Lian from above. His sword practically encountered no resistance upon coming into contact with Qi Lian's skin, and it descended all the way to the ground. Qi Lian's eyes had opened wide when Yang Ye's sword had just touched his skin. He knew that he'd underestimated his opponent, and he wanted to evade the attack. However, it was too late. Qi Lian could only watch helplessly as the sword of that human before him struck down from his head all the way to his waist, causing a long gash to be split open there. Qi Lian didn't perish from this attack because that gasp was quite insignificant when compared to his enormous body, but he'd lost at least 70% of his combat strength. Qi Lian's eyes surged with terror and horror as he gazed at this human who was able to break through his defenses with ease. Yang Yi raised his head to look at Qi Lian as he said, You said that you'd let me strike you a few times. I've only launched the first strike, so I'm going to execute the second. What sort of expression is that? Could it be that you intend to go back on your word? The rage he felt caused Qi Lian's eyes to almost bulge out from their sockets. Let you strike me a few more times? Isn't that like giving my life away? How outrageous. Yang Ye's gaze descended onto Qi Lian's stomach area and said, I heard the gallbladder of a snake is very nutritious. I wonder if it's true. Kill him. Kill him. Qi Lian howled madly. The pit vipers behind him immediately pounced at Yang Yi upon receiving Qi Lian's command. Yang Yi laughed coldly as he swung his sword. Sword chi that were thin like strands of hair transformed into an expanse of silver light that shot into the ground of snakes, and then numerous shrill cries resounded incessantly. Almost 1,000 pit viper corpses had appeared around Yang Yi in just 2 breaths of time, and the remaining pit vipers gazed at Yang Yi with terror and didn't dare move forward at all. A wisp of a strange glow flashed through Xianxia's eyes as she gazed at Yang Yi. There was no doubt that the strong were always able to draw the attention of others in this world where the strong were respected. Yang Ye's gaze descended onto Qi Lian, and he said, Do you know why I still haven't killed you? Why? Qi Lian spoke subconsciously but suddenly realized that it would be extremely embarrassing if he did. So, he immediately shut his mouth and just gazed at Yang Yi. However, the wild and arrogant expression he had in his eyes just now had vanished. Yang Yi continued, "Let me ask you a question. Why did you come here and attack us?" This fellow and all the pit vipers had clearly come prepared. In other words, they were either used by someone or ordered to do so. Yang Yi wanted to figure it out. "Would you let me go if I told you?" asked Qi Lian. A cold glow flashed before a cry of pain resounded from Qi Lian. Another bloody scar had appeared on his body. "You don't have any room to negotiate with me," said Yang Yi. A wisp of a ferocious expression flashed through Qi Lian's eyes. He was just about to refuse Yang Ye's question, but he instantly yielded when he saw the sword in Yang Ye's hand move slightly. He knew that this human standing before him was just curious about it and wasn't determined to find out. If he dared to refuse, then this human before him would definitely kill him without the slightest hesitation. Qi Lian didn't hesitate for long before he had a decision, and he said, "It was the Scorpion clan's Xianxia. He told me that a group of humans have entered the Desert of Exile, and there were 2 gorgeous women amongst them. He said that the reason he hadn't attacked the group was because there were 4 Exalt Realm experts amongst them who were extremely strong. So he intended to let me have them instead." At this moment, Qi Lian had cursed generations of Xianxia ancestors in his heart, because no matter how stupid he was, he knew that he'd been used. "The Scorpion clan has sided with Luo Jun as well?" Yang Yi frowned and said, "That fellow Luo Jun has really expanded his influence to reach so far. It might not be Luo Jun." Xianxia said, "Even though Luo Jun's forces are huge, he doesn't have much influence in the Desert of Exile, because if they don't show themselves and just hide at the bottom of the desert, then even 9th rank Exalt Realm experts would be helpless against them. Coupled with the sandstorms that rage all year round, I'm guessing that the Scorpion clan hasn't sided with Luo. That fellow, Xianxia, probably did this because he wanted both our sides to be injured in battle so that he can take advantage of the situation." "It doesn't matter." Yang Yi gazed at Qi Lian and said, "Where's Xianxia? You intend to go looking for him?" Happiness appeared on Qi Lian's face as he said, "Come. I'll take all of you to him." Meanwhile, Yang Yi suddenly turned his head and looked towards the distance. He said, "There's no need for that anymore." As soon as he finished speaking, his figure had vanished on the spot and appeared over 150 m away, and then a ray of light flashed before a shrill cry resounded. Bang! A figure shot out from beneath the sand, and it was none other than Xianxia. Moreover, there was a hole on his arm and it was bleeding. How did you notice me?" Xianxia spoke with shock. Yang Yi wasn't an idiot to answer Xianxia. He just flicked his wrist and a ray of light flashed out. Xianxia was astounded, and his figure flashed to avoid this attack. However, he was still a little too late, and a bloody hole appeared on his chest. Xianxia was horrified when he saw that Yang Yi intended to swing his sword again, and he hurriedly said, "I surrender." Yang Yi didn't stop. A ray of light flashed through Xiaxia's neck, and then the latter's head rolled off onto the ground. "You're still so ruthless and decisive." Right at this moment, a voice of a woman that was familiar to Yang Yi resounded from behind him. "It's you." Xianxia and Lu Jianyao were extremely shocked when they saw the woman. It was a Nanjing, and she had Sky Split in her hand. Xianxia and Lu Jianyao seemed as if they were facing a formidable enemy. There were 3 individuals that were most terrifying amongst the current younger generation. One of them was the Sword Emperor Yang Yi, the other was the Mortal Emperor Luo Jun, and the last was the Martial God in Nanjing. The Mortal Emperor Luo Jun was terrifying because of the forces he commanded and his ability to converge experts to his cause. Conversely, Yang Yi and Nanjing were terrifying because of their individual strength. It could be said that unless Monarch Realm experts attacked, then no Exalt Realm expert would be able to harm them at all. Another beauty has arrived. Qi Lian was instantly overcome by lust when he saw Nanjing, and then he started sizing her up without the slightest fear or restraint. Xianxia and Lu Jianyao gazed at Qi Lian when they heard him, and their eyes were filled with pity. And Nanjing's gaze shot onto Qi Lian, and she said, "Do you want to die?" Qi Lian instantly spoke with rage upon hearing that. "Little bitch, do you know who you're talking to? I would have swallowed you with one gulp if it weren't for the fact that you know that big brother over there." And Nanjing gazed at Yang Yi, and then he shook his head and said, "I don't know him. Feel free to do as you please." And Nanjing nodded. In the next moment, Sky Split flew from her grasp and carried a ray of golden light as it shot violently towards Qi Lian. A wisp of happiness appeared in Qi Lian's eyes when he saw her attack. He'd naturally not infuriated her on purpose because he'd only taken a liking to her beauty. She was clearly an acquaintance of that monster with a sword, so he felt that he could threaten that monster and flee once he captured this woman. That was his entire plan. Qi Lian didn't dodge, and his gaze was filled with disdain. In his opinion, there would only be a single monstrous human like that fellow with the sword throughout the world. Even though this woman before him was an Exalt Realm expert, he didn't believe that she could break through his defenses just like that fellow with the sword could. At this moment, he'd thought about how he would tempt the woman to attack upon resisting this attack of hers, and he felt that it would be best if she would come close to him and attack. Because he felt that fellow with the sword was too abnormal, so he didn't dare attack rashly. Yang Yi shook his head when he saw Qi Lian refuse to dodge in Nanjing's attack. He felt that he'd never seen someone who wanted to die that much. Because not to mention Qi Lian's physical defense, even he wouldn't dare resist a strike and Nanjing executed with Sky Split, even with the physical defense he possessed, which was also supplemented by the Mortal Emperor armor. Bang! The tip of Sky Split stabbed onto Qi Lian's skin, and then Qi Lian's eyes that were originally filled with disdain had instantly bulged out while filled with shock and terror. "No!" Qi Lian let out his last hysterical and furious howl. Xianxia and the others watched with astonishment as Qi Lian's skin. No, it should be said that Qi Lian's entire body had cracked apart, and less than 2 breaths of time passed before his entire body had cracked apart into countless pieces. A huge amount of blood and internal organs splashed all over the ground, and it caused Xianxia, Pexing, and Peking's eyelids to twitch. As expected of the martial god, Yin Xian'er spoke softly while she was shocked in her heart as well. The martial god. Xianxia, Pekong, and Pexing's expressions changed drastically when they heard these words, and they gazed at Nanjing with astonishment. They'd naturally heard of the martial god, but they'd been quite indifferent towards it. After all, how monstrous could those monstrous geniuses of the human race be? But at this moment, regardless of whether it was Pexing, Pekong, or Xianxia who was the strongest amongst the 3 of them, all of them weren't confident in their ability to resist that attack Nanjing had executed. All 3 of them glanced at Nanjing, and then they glanced at Yang Yi. The Sword Emperor and Martial Emperor. Who is stronger? "You've grown stronger again," said Yang Yi. "So have you," said Nanjing. "Have you come to kill me on Luo Jun's behalf?" Yang Yi stared her in the eyes as he asked this question. "He isn't qualified to order me around. No one is." And Nanjing said, "I don't want to get involved in the conflicts and trickery of the world. The Yin clan has sided with Luo Jun, but it doesn't represent that I've sided with Luo Jun. Yang Yi, you're the only person who possesses strength and natural talent that I can take seriously. So I don't want you to get swept into too much of these meaningless and trivial matters as well." Yang Yi shook his head and said, "And Nanjing, your path and mine are completely different, and what we care about is completely different as well. The reason I want to become stronger is to protect the things I care about, and I'm not trying to become stronger because I want to be stronger. The things which are meaningless and trivial matters in your opinion just happen to be what I feel I need to do, because all of that is related to the lives of the people I care about." And Nanjing fell silent. Yang Yi smiled and said, "No matter what, I'm very happy to have seen you today because you didn't come kill me on Luo Jun's behalf. To be honest, I don't want to become enemies with you because we're friends after all." And Nanjing suddenly said, "I came here today because I don't want you to continue forward." "Why?" The smile on Yang Ye's face gradually vanished. And Nanjing said, "The resources and reserves of the exalted Han Empire exceed your imagination. Even though it's very difficult for anyone to be a match for you in the Exalt realm, it doesn't represent that the exalted Han Empire is helpless against you. Luo Jun is determined to obtain the world portrait, so he won't give you even the slightest chance. Perhaps he's waiting for you to head to the wilds right now. He wants to kill me, and I want to kill him as well, Yang Yi said. I'm very curious. Since you're not interested in all of this, then why are you heading to the wilds? Even though the Saint Ruins contains the inheritance of that Saint Realm expert, I think that it isn't attractive to you at all. You'll know very soon. And Nanjing said, don't underestimate Luo Jun. He cultivates in the karmic luck of the Imperial Tao, and it's a very mysterious path. Yang Yi nodded. Since Luo Jun could become the mortal emperor, he would naturally not think that Luo Jun was a weakling. Right at this moment, and Nanjing suddenly vanished on the spot, and then a ray of golden light stabbed straight at Yang Yi. The expressions of Xianxia and the others changed drastically as they hadn't expected that a Nanjing would actually launch a sudden attack, and her speed was too swift. She'd just moved a moment ago yet was already in front of Yang Yi, so they couldn't interfere at all. Yang Yi's eyes narrowed slightly when he saw the tip of Sky Split stabbing swiftly towards his chest. In the next moment, it stabbed straight through Yang Yi's chest. However, it was only an afterimage. A wisp of surprise flashed through in Nanjing's eyes, and then she spun her spear swiftly and stabbed it backward. Clang! The tip of her sword collided with the tip of Yang Yi's sword. Clang! Space trembled violently, and Nanjing withdrew her spear, and then turned around to gaze at Yang Yi as she said, "So that's how it is. I thought that you were still at the spirit realm, but I never expected that you would have actually advanced so quickly." "What would you do if I were still at the spirit realm?" asked Yang Yi. "I'd send you back to the southern territory." And Nanjing said, "However, it isn't necessary now, because I'm unable to send you back there when there isn't a gap between our realms of cultivation." Yang Yi smiled bitterly. He hadn't expected that a Nanjing would have actually been planning to do that. "Fortunately, I've attained the Exalt realm, otherwise, I would probably have been sent back to the southern territory by her." After all, he wasn't the slightest bit confident in his ability to surmount a realm of cultivation and defeat a Nanjing. And Nanjing glanced at Xianxia, Lu Jianyao, and the others, and then she said, "All of you are too weak." She turned around and left once she finished speaking. Lu Jianyao was almost overwhelmed with rage. "She's going too far." The expression on Xianxia's face was quite unsightly as well because it was the first time someone had said that to her face. Most importantly, she wasn't able to refute it. Xianxia suddenly said, "Let's split up." "Why?" asked Yang Yi. Is this woman really feeling a sense of low self-esteem because of what a Nanjing said? Xianxia said, "Luo Jun will definitely target us if we go with you, and we'll be in a very bad situation if we're targeted by him with the strengths we possess. If we split up, then he'll only target you. In that way, their gazes would be gathered on you, and it would allow us to do many things." Yang Yi thought for a moment and said, "All right, I can act as I please as well if he only targets me. All of you be careful. It shouldn't be a problem to protect yourselves with the strengths all of you possess." He hadn't forgotten that Xianxia had 12 gold guards. Yang Yi gazed at Lu Jianyao, and then he said, "Don't run around on your own. With the strength you possess, others will treat you like a plump sheep that's ready for the taking in the Saint Ruins. Follow Miss Xianxia well and don't act willfully. If you don't promise me this, then I'll knock you out right now and make someone send you back to the southern territory." Lu Jianyao glanced at Xianxia. She was slightly unwilling to follow this woman, but she didn't dare disobey Yang Yi. She knew that this fellow before her would definitely do as he'd said, so she had no choice but to nod to him. Yang Yi gazed at Xianxia when he saw Lu Jianyao nod, and he said, "Miss Xianxia, I'll be troubling you with taking care of her." They were about to part ways, so Xianxia didn't have the mood to joke around as well. She immediately nodded and said, "Don't worry, I won't let her die in the Saint Ruins." Lu Jianyao was instantly infuriated when she heard this, and she glared angrily at Xianxia. Yang Yi shook his head, and then his figure flashed and vanished on the spot. "He's rather concerned about you, huh?" Xianxia spoke abruptly after she watched Yang Yi leave. "What? Are you jealous?" Lu Jianyao wanted to infuriate Xianxia. Xianxia chuckled lightly and said, "You really are a little girl. No wonder that he wanted me to take care of you before he left. What are you trying to say?" Lu Jianyao hated it the most when others said that she was immature. Xianxia shook her head, paid no further attention to Lu Jianyao, and shot her gaze towards the distance. The wilds was in the direction of her gaze, and it was also where the ruins left behind by Saint Lu Yun resided. She was very clearly aware of what would be waiting for Yang Yi. Luo Jun had 15 Exalt Realm experts by his side in the open, but what about those who were hiding in the shadows? She didn't believe that Luo Jun only brought such a small number of experts with him. Xianxia remained silent for a short while before she said, "Let's go." Yang Yi had just walked out of the Desert of Exile when 3 Exalt Realm experts were blocking his path. "You're Yang Yi? As expected of the Sword Emperor, you dared to traverse the Desert of Exile while only at the Spirit Realm, and you even succeeded. Oh right, I forgot our introductions. We 3 brothers are profounders of the Central Territory, and we're called the 3 outstanding geniuses of the Central Territory. We came here to look for you because we heard that your head is very valuable, and we just happen to be in need of money as well. Why don't you do us a favor and lend us your head?" The middle-aged man who was in the lead of the group chuckled as he spoke. Yang Yi glanced at him and said, "Who do you think you are?" The middle-aged man's expression became ferocious as he said, "You're courting death." A strand of sword chi flashed by. Hiss! The head of that man who spoke just now had flown off his neck before he could even react, and a fountain of fresh blood sprayed from his headless corpse. "You!" The other 2 gazed at Yang Yi with astonishment, and their bodies had even started to tremble. Right at this moment, a large group of people walked over from behind the 2 of them. Yang Ye's eyes narrowed slightly because he recognized a few of the people who were in the front of the group, and he saw Luo Jun and Enbairu amongst them. "Yang Yi, I truly never expected that you would arrive at the wild so quickly, and it just so happens to be when the Saint Ruins is about to be opened. Moreover, I never imagined that you would actually dare to openly show yourself here. As expected of the Sword Emperor." "Oh right, I should call you the Sword Demon." Luo Jun spoke with a smile on his face, and it was like he'd met an old friend. "That's the Sword Demon, Yang Yi? TSK. He's actually so young. It's truly difficult to imagine that he's actually able to kill Exalt Realm experts." One of the independent cultivators standing at the side exclaimed with admiration. "What a sharp gaze. His attainments in the Sword Dao have definitely arrived at an inconceivable height. Even if he's that far away, I'm still able to sense the faint sword intent he emanates. Alas, such a figure actually came from the Southern Territory. Who cares where he's from? All I know is that the mortal Emperor Luo Jun will cease to have a monopoly of things in the Saint Ruins now that he has arrived. Even though the mortal Emperor declare it, can't all of you sense it? He has taken himself to be the owner of this place. Humph. He'll probably reveal his true face when we enter the ruins. Indeed, that isn't beneficial to all of us independent cultivators at all. Forget it, let's just watch. I wonder if Yang Yi will be able to resist Luo Jun. After all, Luo Jun has 15 Exalt Realm experts by his side. Since he dared to come here, then he should have some ability or assistance. Let's just wait and see. Yang Yi pointed void flash towards the ground and said, "Cut the crap. Are you going to make your subordinates attack me one by one? Or will they come at me in groups? I suggest that you send all of them together." Arrogant. Extremely arrogant. That was the first impression everyone had of Yang Yi. Only a few people revealed admiration in their eyes. Even though Yang Ye's actions were arrogant to the extreme, if one looked at it from another angle, one would be able to notice that Yang Yi wasn't someone who only had brawn but no brains. Because Luo Jun was the mortal emperor at any rate. So, how could he send a group against Yang Yi when Yang Yi had provoked him like that in public? If Luo Jun did that, then wouldn't it be like indirectly stating that the mortal emperor was inferior to the Sword Emperor? At the same time, if Luo Jun did that in this world where the strong were respected, then many people here would look down upon him. Mortal Emperor. Allow me to fight this Sword Emperor of legend. A middle-aged man bowed slightly to Luo Jun and spoke respectfully. "Are you confident?" asked Luo Jun in a flat tone. "I won't embarrass you, mortal emperor." The middle-aged man spoke with confidence. Luo Jun nodded. Even he wanted to see how much Yang Yi had grown during this period. The middle-aged man walked over to stand not too far away from Yang Yi before he said, "Li Yonggang, a team leader of the 10th Battalion under the Mortal Emperor's command and a 5th-rank Exalt Realm Profounder. My cultivation is superior to yours, so I'll allow you to attack me 3 times so as to prevent others from saying that I bullied the weak." Yang Yi chuckled, and then he glanced at Luo Jun and said, "Will you really not send them all at me? I really have good intentions. Even though this subordinate of mine is weak, if it's against you, then he should be." Luo Jun hadn't finished speaking when the tip of a sword had suddenly pierced through Li Yonggang's neck, and then Li Yonggang's head rolled down to the ground and just happened to stop before Luo Jun. The expressions of everyone in the surroundings changed drastically. He instantly annihilated a 5th-rank Exalt Realm expert with just a swing of his sword. Their minds had practically gone blank, and they gazed at him with astonishment. And Bairu took a deep and long glance at Yang Yi before she lowered her eyes. No one knew what she was thinking. Yang Yi shook his head and said, "See, I really had good intentions. Now I'll give you the same suggestion again. Ask all of them to attack me at once." The composure and indifference on Luo Jun's face had vanished, and he spoke with a slightly unsightly expression on his face. "You've attained the Exalt Realm. If Yang Yi hadn't attained the Exalt Realm, then it would be absolutely impossible for Yang Yi to instantly annihilate Li Yonggang, but he'd accomplished it with ease right now. So, the only explanation was that Yang Yi had attained the Exalt Realm." Yang Yi disregarded Luo Jun. He waved his sword and 2 strands of sword chi shot out violently before they instantly beheaded the other 2 of the 3 outstanding geniuses of the Central Territory. After that, he swept his gaze towards the others in the surroundings and said, "I, Yang Yi, am right here. If anyone wants my head to exchange it for the bounty, then you can come over here right now." Besides Luo Jun's group, no one else dared to meet Yang Ye's gaze as they were extremely afraid of offending that madman. Yang Ye's gaze descended onto Luo Jun in the end, and he said, "What about you?" Luo Jun's eyes narrowed slightly while his hand slowly moved up to the Mortal Emperor's sword on his waist. He was just about to speak when an old man on his right suddenly said, "Mortal Emperor, you're a noble figure, so allow yourself to be reduced to fighting such a villain? Since he intends to court death, then allow me to send him on his way." "Elder Yun, how could I allow you to act against him?" A middle-aged man behind the old man stepped forward and smiled. "The Sword Emperor? Haha. I, the old drunkard, have killed countless people throughout my lifetime, but I've never killed the Sword Emperor. Elder Yun, please don't fight me for such an opportunity." Elder Yun nodded slightly, and then he closed his eyes and didn't say another word. The old drunkard bowed slightly to Luo Jun, and then he raised the wine gourd at his waist and took a huge mouthful of wine. Only after he finished drinking did his gaze descend onto Yang Yi before he said, "Ignorant kid, you think you're invincible in the world just because you have some ability? I, the old drunkard, will make you realize that there's always someone stronger in the world." As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying, imposing aura surged out like a storm from within him. "The 9th rank of the Exalt Realm," countless independent cultivators exclaimed with shock. Yang Yi lightly tapped the tip of his right foot on the ground while the profound energy within him surged into void flash. He was accumulating strength while waiting for the battle to begin. Even though he hadn't fought the middle-aged man, Yang Yi was able to sense how strong the middle-aged man was. That fellow, the old drunkard, who was a 9th-rank Exalt Realm expert, was much stronger than the 9th-rank Exalt Realm experts he'd fought in the Flower Palace. Yang Yi didn't fear the middle-aged man, but he refused to underestimate his opponent as well. "Obliteration fist," the old drunkard shouted while he suddenly smashed his fists towards Yang Yi from afar. In an instant, a pair of enormous fists that were around 300 m in size had flashed into appearance, and they carried terrifying force as they smashed down towards Yang Yi. Moreover, even the space they passed by instantly collapsed from their might. Xianxia tapped the tip of his foot on the ground and soared up into the air before he swiftly slashed void flash forward. A strand of violet-colored sword chi that was over 100 m long and over 40 m wide tore through the sky as it blasted against the pair of fists. The sword chi he executed seemed as if they were material from being enhanced by 8th level sword intent. Everywhere they passed, space was instantly slashed apart, and it remained like that for some time. The area of space which was slashed open by 8th level sword intent wasn't able to recover immediately like the space that the old drunkard's obliteration fist had blasted apart. The sword chi and enormous fists collided against each other before the gazes of everyone. Bang! It was like an enormous thunderclap had resounded from the 9 heavens, and it caused the eardrums of countless people to hurt. The sword chi instantly slashed the enormous fists apart. However, right at this moment, Xianxia's expression changed slightly before there was another pair of enormous fists behind the first pair. The obliteration fist technique is a mid-grade heaven rank technique, and it has a total of 5 levels. Every single level allows its user to instantly blast out a pair of enormous fists. Based on how the old drunkard executed 2 pairs of enormous fists with such ease, it seems like he has completely comprehended that technique. Haha! Let me see how that sword emperor deals with this technique. A middle-aged man behind Luo Jun chuckled lightly, and Bairu's brows knit together slightly. When the second pair of enormous fists collided with the sword chi, the 2 of them were instantly dispersed in midair and transformed into countless waves of energy which swept towards the surroundings. But another pair of enormous fists appeared in the next moment, and regardless of whether it was their strength or speed, they surpassed the 2 pairs of enormous fists from before. They arrived before Xianxia in an instant. That wasn't the end of it. After this pair of enormous fists arrived before Xianxia, 2 more pairs of enormous fists had appeared behind them. Each of these pairs of enormous fists were more terrifying than the last in both strength and speed, so they instantly overlapped with the pair of enormous fists that were already in front of Xianxia. When these 3 pairs of enormous fists had overlapped, the terrifying might they contained simply made others feel like they could really obliterate the world. How will Xianxia resist this? At this moment, this thought had appeared in the minds of countless people. Swish! 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 For rays of light shot out from the sword chest on Xianxia's back, and then they instantly arrived before the 3 pairs of enormous fists which had overlapped into one. After that, they started dancing about and countless rays of light flashed incessantly through the air. The spectators watched in astonishment as those 3 pairs of enormous fists, which had overlapped into one, were sliced apart into pieces in less than 3 breaths of time, and they transformed into waves of energy that dispersed towards the surroundings. The old drunkard's expression changed. He hadn't expected that Xianxia, who just advanced into the Exalt realm, would actually be able to destroy his trump card with such ease. The old drunkard's face burned with shame when he recalled what he'd said earlier, and then a savage expression flashed through his eyes. His figure shot up into the air, and then he suddenly used his right hand to make a grasping motion towards Xianxia. Spatial cage. The space in an area of almost 100 m around Xianxia was frozen. Layer after layer of spatial walls surrounded Xianxia incessantly, causing him to be unable to move at all. Xianxia's eyes narrowed slightly as 8th level sword intent swept out from within him and struck those spatial walls. However, the spatial walls merely trembled slightly yet showed no signs of being broken by his sword intent. The spatial cage of a 9th rank Exalt realm expert really is formidable. Xianxia muttered in his heart before he issued a command. The nether ghost flame, violet cloud lightning, 9th hell cold gale charged out from within him, and the joint forces of the 3 natural treasures and 8th level sword intent instantly blasted the spatial walls apart. 3 natural treasures! All the spectators exclaimed with shock. The old drunkard's expression changed once more. He hadn't expected that Xianxia would be able to break his spatial cage open with such ease. He knew that he'd underestimated Xianxia. He was just about to attack again when he heard Xianxia's voice. "It's my turn now." The hairs on the old drunkard's entire body instantly stood on end when he heard Xianxia. The tip of a sword suddenly appeared before his forehead, and it horrified the old drunkard. He forcefully moved his body away and appeared 300 m away. However, there was a bloody hole at the center of his forehead, and beads of blood were dripping incessantly from it. I would be dead if it went just a little deeper. Terror had appeared in the old drunkard's eyes. Right at this moment, the tip of a sword appeared behind his neck. This time, the tip of the sword had appeared even more swiftly than the last attack, and he wasn't able to dodge it at all. The old drunkard was horrified. Swish! Right when that tip of a sword was about to pierce through the old drunkard's neck, a fine gold needle had struck the tip of Void Flash, and then it was instantly deflected to the side. At the same time, Xianxia's entire arms shook violently. If it wasn't for his formidable physical body, then this arm of his would have probably been crippled by the impact from that attack. Xianxia's gaze descended onto an old man by Luo Jun's side because it was that old man who'd attacked him just now. Many independent cultivators who were watching from the side revealed expressions of disdain when they saw the old man lend the old drunkard a hand. He actually feels that a single 9th rank Exalt Realm expert against a 1st rank Exalt Realm expert isn't sufficient, and even lent a hand. That mortal emperor, Luo Jun, is quite despicable. Even though they felt contempt towards Luo Jun's actions, they didn't dare to voice it out, and they didn't even dare to spread what had occurred here today. The exalted Han Empire was a colossus that they couldn't afford to offend. Luo Jun's expression was slightly unsightly. He naturally knew what those independent cultivators were thinking, but he had no other choice. His subordinates would be disappointed in him if he didn't save the old drunkard. Ha ha! Xianxia chuckled and said, Luo Jun, I told you just now to send them all at me. Otherwise, it would truly be a waste of time if you use tactics of attrition and send them against me, one by one. Xianxia, you'll die. Luo Jun spoke coldly. Then who will you send next? Asked Xianxia. I'll do it. A voice arose from behind Luo Jun. However, Luo Jun immediately glared at that person and then he gazed at Xianxia and said, Xianxia, I admit that you're strong, but that's useless because regardless of how strong you are, you're all alone in the end. My subordinate lost today, so I won't act against you again. Otherwise, others would say that my exalted Han Empire doesn't have anyone capable and tries to tire you out using numbers. But you'll definitely die the next time we fight. As soon as he finished speaking, Luo Jun turned around and led his group away. A solemn expression appeared in Xianxia's eyes as he watched Luo Jun's group leave. There were at least 3 people in Luo Jun's group that gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. That old man was one of them. Another one was the black-clothed person who was covered in a black cloak and cape. The last person was an old woman standing behind Luo Jun's 16th. 20 he sensed a strong feeling of danger from them. I never expected that you still came. Meanwhile, Anbiru walked over to Xianxia, and that black-clothed assassin was behind her. Xianxia glanced at her, and then his figure flashed past her and continued ahead. He had nothing left to say to her after the clan had sent assassins after him because it was meaningless to say anything. Since they'd become enemies, then it was better to just act completely like enemies. He didn't want to be enemies with her yet still have a slightly ambiguous relationship with her. A wisp of a bitter expression appeared in Anbiru's eyes. Xianxia had only taken a few steps forward before that black-clothed woman appeared in front of him. Is there something you need? Xianxia tightened his grip on Void Flash. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't defeat her, Xianxia would have chopped her into pieces by now. Perhaps we can all have a chat, said the woman. A chat? Xianxia laughed with ridicule and said, What is there to chat about? I don't think there's anything. We've been bound to be enemies since your clan sent assassins after me. I can be very frank and tell you that I'll annihilate the entire clan if it's possible. Trust me, I'll definitely be able to accomplish it, and I believe that it wouldn't be too long from now. Do you think you're the Sword Sect's founding ancestor? The woman revealed killing intent in her eyes. The Sword Sect's founding ancestor? Xianxia chuckled and said, Do you think I'm inferior to him? Do you believe me when I say that killing you would be like slaughtering a dog if I were to attain the Monarch Realm? Of course, that's meaningless because I haven't attained the Monarch Realm. I was just making an assumption. Perhaps you'll never be able to attain the Monarch Realm, said the woman. You don't dare to kill me, right? said Xianxia. The woman fell silent before she said, "It wasn't Bairu who sent those assassins after you. It was I. If you want to hate someone, then hate me. It isn't related to her or the clan. If I find out that you've acted against the clan or her, then while I might not kill you, what about the people you care about? Would the demon emperor protect them as well? Are you threatening me?" Xianxia tightened his grip on his sword. The woman nodded and said, "Am I not qualified to?" Xianxia took a deep breath after a short while passed, and then he said, "Fine, as you wish. This is something between the two of us. I won't act against the clan if it doesn't act against me. But remember what I've said. The first person I come to kill upon attaining the monarch realm will be you. Don't worry, I won't make you wait for long." Xianxia's figure flashed and vanished on the spot after he finished speaking. "Aunt, why do all of that?" And Bairu suddenly said after Xianxia left, "He has resentment towards our clan, so it's impossible for us to be reconciled. Even if he is willing to do so, it's still impossible for our sides to be reconciled. We underestimated his strength and potential." The woman spoke abruptly. "If I didn't act against him like you've said in the past, then our clan would be in the same position at the northern clan, and we would have a way out. Now, he has grown and has the protection of an extraordinary expert like the Demon Emperor. Not to mention us, even the exalted Han Empire would find it difficult to eliminate him. Under the circumstances that monarch realm experts can't act against him, there isn't any power that can endure that madman's revenge. He's even more terrifying than the Sword Sect's founding ancestor, because the Sword Sect's founding ancestor wasn't called the Sword Demon as well. So, you threatened him on purpose so that the enmity between him and the clan would become a personal grudge between the two of you." And Bairu said, "Actually, there's no need to do that. Even though you were mistaken, everything you did was for the clan's sake. So, the clan will definitely endure everything with you. Bairu, are you worried that he would really be able to kill me upon attaining the monarch realm?" said the woman. "It isn't beneficial to the clan regardless of which one of you dies," said Bairu. The woman fell silent. Indeed, Xianxia isn't all alone now, and he has support as well. It's difficult to say whether killing him would make those who support him to seek vengeance. In the end, it was her decision on that day which had caused the clan to fall into such a bad situation. Of course, it wouldn't be a problem if Xianxia was eliminated by Luo Jun, but it was clearly quite difficult to accomplish. "Let's go and have a look at the best experts from the human, demon, and devil races in the current younger generation," said Bairu. There was a seemingly illusory mountain not too far away in the distance, and it was covered in milky white mist. Besides that, there was a thin barrier that rippled like water covering the mist. That mountain was the ruins left behind by Saint Lu Yun. Xianxia glanced at the surroundings and noticed that there were no less than 10,000 profounders in the surroundings, and practically all of them were Exalt Realm experts. These profounders had been basically divided up into countless small groups. After all, the ruins were filled with the unknown, so it was normal for them to form groups. There were also some that were alone like him, but there were very few like that. In next to no time, Xianxia noticed a Nanjing in the crowd. She seemed to have noticed his gaze, and she raised her head to look at him before nodding slightly. Xianxia nodded as well, and then he withdrew his gaze. "The devil race is here," suddenly someone exclaimed with surprise. The crowd saw a group of robust young men from the devil race walking over slowly from afar. Xianxia looked over as well. Xianxia saw Moku in the group, but Moku wasn't the one leading the group, and it was another man instead. That fellow in the lead looked over to Luo Jun, and he sized up Luo Jun before he said, "The mortal emperor Luo Jun?" Luo Jun nodded lightly, and then he said, "If I'm not wrong, then you should be Mo's senior brother, Mo Xian, right? You're quite well informed." Mo Xian laughed coldly and said, "According to legend, the mortal emperor has to unite the continent. My devil race will be waiting for you to break open the barrier between our continents. Don't shrink back when the time comes. Don't worry, that day will come very soon." Luo Jun wasn't willing to display weakness. Mo Xian laughed coldly, and then his gaze descended onto a Nanjing and said, Emoka lost to you that day? What? You intend to avenge him? Said in Nanjing. Emo Xian shook his head and said, I'm not interested in you because you lost as well. Emo Xian swept the surroundings with his gaze and said, Who's Yang Yi? His voice reverberated like a bell and was deafening. Everyone looked over at Yang Yi. Emo Xian gazed at Yang Yi, sized him up, and then said, You're the so-called Sword Emperor of the human race, Yang Yi? Yang Yi nodded and said, Have you come to look for trouble with me? You're absolutely right. Emo Xian said coldly, Draw your sword, otherwise, you probably won't have a chance to. Yang Yi stretched out his hand and pointed a finger at the old drunkard by Luo Jun's side, and then he said, See that? That fellow was as arrogant as you are right now. I left that mark on his forehead. The expressions of Luo Jun and the others became unsightly, and it was especially so for the old drunkard. Flames almost sprayed out from his eyes. Emo Xian glanced at the old drunkard and said, He's just a piece of trash. He isn't even worthy of being compared to me. Yang Yi, I'll give you one last chance. Draw your sword. Otherwise, you won't have another chance. The spectators in the surroundings gazed at Emo Xian as if they were looking at an idiot. They'd thought that Yang Yi was very arrogant and haughty, but they hadn't imagined that this fellow would be worse. He's afraid that Yang Yi wouldn't have the chance to draw his sword? Is there something wrong with this fellow's head? You want me to strike you? Said Yang Yi. No, I just want you to launch the first attack, said Emo Xian. Yang Yi smiled and said, Since it's like that, then let's begin. As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Yi stabbed Void Flash into the space in front of him, and then its tip instantly appeared before Emo Xian's throat. A wisp of surprise flashed through the latter's eyes, but he didn't dodge it. He stretched out his hand instead and just grabbed the tip of Yang Ye's sword before he said, A Dao artifact? It's nothing great. If you want to rely on a Dao artifact, then I have to say that I don't have the mood to listen to your nonsense. Yang Yi suddenly spun Void Flash, and then Emo Xian's expression changed slightly as he hurriedly released his grip on Void Flash. There was a bloody cut on his palm and scarlet red blood was flowing slowly from the cut. You've injured me. Emo Xian's face became ferocious. In the next moment, Emo Xian suddenly vanished on the spot and appeared in front of Yang Yi, and then he swiftly smashed a punch at Yang Yi. Moreover, his fist was covered in a layer of black scales.